to confuse the public about science, to confuse scientists about science.
We're exporting a whole lot of really bad and dangerous rhetoric, bad research, and unfortunately it's being picked up and amplified in other countries.
Never forget the elephant in the room. It's actually such a big elephant that I don't think people can even breathe in that room. There's such a huge elephant. It's the number one preventable cause of death in Australia. So when you are taking a precautionary approach, when you're like, no, we just don't know enough, I just tell them, shut up, because that just I don't know is killing people right now.
There's a tremendous push to bring about prohibition, to actually prohibit vaping. Whereas the evidence strongly suggests that actually, up to now, the most successful way of people stopping smoking cigarettes is vaping.
When vaping increases, smoking decreases.
That's right.
When vaping is restricted, smoking increases.
We're worried that, in fact, a lot of members of the public still think that using an e-cigarette is as harmful as smoking a cigarette. I mean, I have said that it would be tragic if smokers didn't quit and carried on smoking because they hadn't tried an e-cigarette, because they were worried about the safety of an e-cigarette.
To confuse the public about science, to confuse scientists about science. What about that? What about that? What about that? What about that? What about that?
I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
Well, hi, and hello, and welcome to Son of Liberty Radio here on the Smoke Free Radio Network. Howdy. How was your Friday? I'm hoping that everybody had a good week, and we have the weekend to enjoy ourselves. But hey, you know what? Kevin and I are here like we are almost every Friday night. I really want to say thanks to everybody that listens to the show, that watches the show. And I'm really excited about the guests that we've already had on. And I already have the next 4 weeks guests already lined up. Kevin and I have really put a focus this last part of the year on bringing on scientists and, people that are way smarter than us to talk about this thing. I was just looking on the YouTube here. We've had Dr. Charles Gardner. We had Yolanda Jeffers. And I'm not saying her name right. We'll just call her Chugga. We had Chugga on. We had Lindsay Stroud on. Eliana Goldberstein Rubashkin. We had Aaron Biebert on. We had Samrat Chowdhury from Inco on. We had Hinaj Mitchell from Factasia on. Kelly Ann Forbes from Vape World. So I think that, we've done a pretty good job bringing the science to the table, especially when we had Eliana performed an experiment. I mean, she showed real science live on the show. So we're going to continue that trend. The next couple guests are really exciting. We do have a policymaker from Australia who has agreed to come on in 2 weeks. She was the chairman or the head of the Senate Select Committee on nicotine. So we're going to have Holly Hughes on. She's a senator from Australia. We have a couple harm reduction guys coming. We've still got Clive on the calendar. We're still trying to fine tune because he lives in Africa and the time difference is extreme. So we're probably going to do the Clive show at a different time, just so that it's convenient for him. Kevin and I are just a bunch of chuckleheads, so we're gonna arrange to meet his schedule. But anyway, before we get too deep into the weeds, let me invite my good friend, my ginger cohort, Kevin Today he is called hashtag Dr. Glover Matters. So hello, Kevin.
I'm in the weeds. That's actually, I believe, Hamish's hashtag today on Twitter.
Yeah,
so we could look that up. Just that hashtag, if you want.
Before we get too deep in here, I want to make sure that everybody is happy with your audio quality before we go deep into it, because as you can see, Kevin has a new microphone, courtesy of our new secret sponsors that will be announced next week. But Kevin has a new microphone with a spit guard and everything.
And if you don't like the volume, it's Patrick's fault. So there you go.
Now,
yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Nothing is ever my fault. Ever.
So science is based upon opinion, or opinion is based upon science. Now I can't remember. We got that to look forward to for the next 4 years. Just so you know.
Well, yeah. Everyone says it's great. So you sound marvelous. You sound
boom,
marvelous.
boom.
So I'm really excited, Kevin, because we have an amazing guest, and this is actually a repeat performance. Now, those of you who have been around long enough to remember a year and a little bit ago, I was actually doing the math in my head. It's been since October of 19 since Dr. Glover has been on the show the last time. Wow. So yes, we've had a whole pandemic since she's been on. It's been crazy.
Our behavior's not been any better.
No. Well.
Than that day.
That is one of the only day. That is the most memorable show. I mean, people have brought up that show in the past because of our behavior. We were like boys in church, and when she comes on, we're going to have to thank Dr. Glover for giving us that experience, because people have laughed at us repeatedly since her last appearance about how we behaved so quietly and meekly when she was on. So we're not going to do that. We're going to actually be humans, and we're going to talk to her like we're humans. And she's probably still going to say words that we don't understand, because, we are just a bunch of chuckleheads. But so let's just not waste any more time.
Let's go.
Dr. Glover is here.
Yes.
We're gonna, I wish we had like we had the curtain, like Johnny Carson used to have the curtain, and the guests would come out from the curtain. I wish we had something like that, but we don't. So let's just go ahead and welcome Dr. Glover to the show. Hello, Dr. Glover.
Hi.
It's still
so
like
great
church
to be
kids.
back with you.
She probably blacked out that part of her memory that she had been on the show, because we did keep her on for like 4 hours.
That's true.
And what was really wonderful about that last appearance, not only because Kevin and I and Fig at the time, we were all acting like boys in church, but you provided to our guests a pretty expansive reading list. We talked about a lot of books, and there were people. I'm sure Amazon received plenty of orders for a bunch of harm reduction and tobacco tactics and all sorts of amazing books. Because I know that Cherry Lai bought each and every one of those books.
Mm-hmm.
And became an even more passionate advocate for harm reduction after that show. She actually attended all of her, like every city council meeting, like over the last 2 years or so much to the point that they just gave her a job. She's working in the city council of her town because of that passion. She was there every day, even if there wasn't anything about vaping on. She just went and participated in the system, and they were like, well, you're here all the time, so here's a job. So, I'm going to give you some of that credit.
Oh, that's great news.
Yes. I mean, every once in a while, she was one of those people that just sort of started vaping and apparently stumbled onto our show and was only vaping for maybe a month or two before she found us.
Yep.
And then when she started listening to all the politics and all the gunk that we have to wade through every week, she got really fired up and went as far as she could possibly go to educate herself about advocacy and about harm reduction, and read all the books. And she's a wonderful, I mean, if you see her on Twitter, she is amazing.
I have seen her on Twitter. I used to see her on Twitter.
Are you able to see people on Twitter right now, or?
Yes.
But you can't actually be on Twitter.
No. When your account is suspended, you can still go there. You can still see a feed, but you have no followers. You're following nobody, and you have no lists.
You're just a peeping Tom on Twitter then.
Mm-hmm.
A lurker.
A lurker. So people who don't know, Dr. Glover is one of the most awesomest harm reduction tobacco policy people, a very smart woman, and somehow somebody decided that she was a danger to the public and removed her from Twitter.
We're just bots.
And I will say, I have said I've never used foul language on Twitter, but I have said some pretty rambunctious things on Twitter, and I have never been banned. I've never been suspended. I've never gotten a warning. I've never done, and I've made the Surgeon General cry on Twitter. I've put people's faces in the mud on Twitter, and I can't understand how you can get a Twitter suspension. And I've read your tweets, and they're nowhere near as aggressive or mean as mine.
What did you do, and what did we miss?
Should we talk about that now? It's and just for context, for maybe some of your newer viewers, and it is about trying to understand why did I get caught up in the net and chucked off or suspended for the moment.
Were you in DC at the what are we calling that? Are we calling that
yes.
I don't think we can even leave the country. I'm in New Zealand. It's summer, melting here. The fan's on in the background, and So just for people who don't know me, and it's so great to be back with you guys. Thank you for getting me back on, and so another year has gone by. And so now I've been working on reducing smoking harms, the harms of smoking, trying to reduce the disease. My focus is always reducing the disease from smoking-related diseases, and therefore the premature deaths. And, about 6.2 million people, it's estimated and claimed by the World Health Organization, die each year from smoking, from long-term smoking. So that's what I've always worked on for going on nearly 30 years now. I've started in government as a policy analyst. I went back to university to do my PhD in smoking cessation. So I'm an expert in smoking cessation, behavioral, I'm a behavioral therapist. I'm also Indigenous, Māori woman in New Zealand. And so I have expertise across behavioral science. I've also done research on weight control, or how to lose weight, So I have general kind of behavioral science background in psychology.
We need to talk about that.
I was in academia for a long time. I was a very, one of the leaders here in tobacco control, the tobacco control movement. I was going to international world conferences on tobacco control and health since 1993. So, I know a lot of the people in tobacco control. And then I got right to the top in academia, became a professor of public health. So I was promoted up, eventually became a professor in public health. And but a few years just before that, I began to question the tax increases on tobacco, because in New Zealand we have the highest rate of tax on tobacco in the world relative to income. So if you look at Australia has higher on absolute figures, but relative to income, ours is actually higher. And we also have the smoking has come down a lot. When I first started 30 years ago, over 50% of Māori, the Indigenous people, smoked. And, so it's, over 3 decades, we've got the smoking prevalence in New Zealand down to about 15% of regular, I mean smokes at least weekly. And there we seem to be stalling. And similar in Australia, they have got down a little bit lower, but have plateaued until, of course, vaping came along. So I was already questioning the tax increases. Tax increases are seen by Tobacco Control internationally as the primary effective strategy. You must do, every country must do the tax increases. You must do the bans on smoking. You must do, anyway, they have a whole lot of strategies. I was part of lobbying for many of them. And then I began to question the negative consequences of these policies that punish people, that really start to hurt them in the pocket. And because of my work across obesity as well, I could see people who were struggling, like, fresh fruit and veggies cost more, so it's cheaper to buy fish and chips. That the fact that the cigarettes were so expensive was really starting to harm people, and especially Māori and Indigenous and lower socioeconomic. So I began to say, hey guys, that's enough. And basically that's when they began to turn on me and like, okay, we don't want you around anymore. And then along came vaping. Now, I've told you some of this before. I'm sorry if I'm repeating it, but just for your newer audience, when vaping first came out, we're talking like 2004, I just thought it was another gimmick out of China. There'd been a whole lot of gimmicks, come out of China, stop smoking gimmicks. So I was ignoring it. And then it was just became something you couldn't ignore. People were en masse taking up vaping around the world. And that's 2004. It's 2021, people. Like, how many years is that now? We have people, millions. I can't remember the figure. It's millions around the world have now shifted and switched to vaping. So I began to look into the science, and I was amazed. And I went, we've been waiting for something like this. This is it. Okay, let's embrace this. And whoa, the doors just were slammed shut, and I became even more like, oh, now you don't agree with taxes, now you don't agree with this, and now you want vaping. Oh, well, you are out. And they began to push me out of academia. And so at the moment, I should disclose, eventually, as a professor of public health, I had a secure position, and the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World was set up. I was already struggling to get funding in the area of smoking cessation or tobacco, because you have to apply to panels of your peers. Well, my peers didn't want me around anymore, so I couldn't get funding anymore. And then when Derek Yark of the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World set up a fund and called for proposals, I put in and I got funded, and I left. I had to leave my university job because it was a highly controversial fund, because Derek set that up with a pledge, independent money, a pledge to him from Philip Morris International, which is a tobacco company, and they're also the company behind that bought out the Heat Not Burn IQOS product and started that whole thing. They also have a range of vaping products, and they were experimenting and innovating with a lot of reduced risk products. And then they said they're going to move completely out of tobacco and switch all their customers over to these new products. Anyway, I don't have anything to do with them. I've never been funded by a tobacco company or even a vaping company, but my funding for my center, which I established, my focus is reducing smoking among Indigenous people and low middle income country marginalized groups. That's really my expertise. And so that's what I've been doing 30 years. But of course, like when I met with you last time, because I was in there, because I was part of that tobacco control, because I was cooking up some of those nasty strategies, and I have apologized, and I'm sorry for some of that, but it is like you're in a little echo chamber, and it's very controlled, and you don't think about how your policies might be hurting people until I began to see through my research that they were being hurt, and then that woke me up. And so part of what we're going to talk about is that I'm seen as I'm a bit of a threat because I'm a whistleblower. I'm not someone who was doing tobacco or doing harm reduction who's come across to tobacco harm reduction. I was part of tobacco control, and I became a whistleblower. I began to say, no, I don't agree with what you're proposing anymore, and I got evicted. And they want me silenced. If you disagree, they want you silenced, and that's how it works. So it's been really, really shocking several years, realizing how I could write a book. I could write a book on the strategies that academics use to shut up their competitors. And we're talking commercial competitors. I can't go to these funds now, researcher-initiated funds in New Zealand, because that panel appears. I've been so defamed and slandered and all of those and smeared here by my competitors that I doubt I would ever get funded in New Zealand. I doubt I'll ever get a job here. You're just absolutely, I've been subjected to cyberbullying attacks on Twitter. I've been, hit pieces in the media. If I write anything anywhere, like even on a local news site or in a journal article, then these competitors of mine, academics, professors, they write letters of complaint to that media platform about me. How dare you, you mustn't publish anything she writes. And then to top it off, they lobbied the government. The government changed. One of their mates got in, and then he wrote a letter saying that no one who worked in government-funded healthcare services in New Zealand they're not allowed to take my advice. They're not allowed to talk to me. They're not allowed to read my research. I mean, we're talking, this is serious suppression of science.
Yes.
Health policies are supposed to be evidence-based, but not if it's any evidence that comes from my research here in New Zealand. So it's just been pretty severe. And, the whole suspension on Twitter, I'm surprised it hasn't happened before. I'm pretty sure that I have been subjected to them. Anything they think they could report me for, I'm sure they have. I don't know if Twitter has some kind of demerit point system. And, there was just one more, and boom, I tripped the line and I'm out, So I don't know how Twitter works. If I can just say, I am not defined by some computer program that decides that I'm whatever. They can say whatever they like. And then now we've got some of those academics or retired academics trying to smear me, trying to say that because I was suspended in this great Twitter purge that just happened, I must be one of them. And I'm like, what is that anyway? I don't even know what that is.
What is one of them?
Say the word.
What are them? What are them?
I'm not going to say the word because now it's like these algorithms, these computers are searching for keywords, and we might say it, and next minute you're shut down. But yeah, he tried to.
That would clear my calendar a little bit. That would be okay if I got kicked off of Twitter. I spend a good amount of time on there.
That's right. It can be a bit of a blessing in disguise.
It is a time suck. One of the things that, like in the middle of that, one of the things that you said that really something that we've talked about a little bit on the show was about, you mentioned tobacco tax. People don't quite understand. People that are not in it, people that are not smokers, people that have never been, addicted. I'll use that word. I don't like that word, but addicted to cigarettes. They'll buy cigarettes before they buy food. Mm-hmm. If they have enough money to buy cigarettes or to eat a meal, they're going to buy the cigarettes. Tobacco taxes invariably punish people of low economic level, low education level. They inordinately punish people of color, people that are mentally ill, people that are stressed out. All of those things. Most people that I know that have ever smoked have been. They smoke to get rid of stress. They smoke to get away for a minute. You're working your job and you get a 5 or 10-minute smoke, 10-minute break. The first thing you're going to do is go out and try to suck 2 cigarettes in 10 minutes, because your job is stressful. Whatever, So those sorts of things don't affect people that have means. Yeah. Because if they want to smoke, usually people that have means or that are more higher educated, they don't as frequently smoke as people that are lower income, lower education. But it doesn't hurt them. If they want to smoke, they have the money to buy cigarettes. It punishes people for being poor.
It is. It is a tax on the poor. And in New Zealand, unfortunately, the Indigenous people are overrepresented among the lower socioeconomic, lower income groups. We were colonized only, just 200 and something years ago, and we're still sort of being kept down there, and higher unemployment numbers, etc. So that's why I, get really worked up about it, because it is disproportionately attacking those people. And this might be a really good time, if I can, to let you know about my latest study, because the other thing is there are now a lot of people who work in health policy and who work in healthcare who have never smoked. Mm-hmm. And they don't know that, what you just said. They don't know. They don't understand. And they're like, well, why don't people just quit? Well, we just have to keep hiking that price up. We've just got to keep hurting them. We've just got to, ban smoking in more places. We've got to, and so all of the tobacco control policies, it's gone so far beyond what I ever, and I don't personally agree with implementing policies to change people's behavior, that policies that hurt people. Even if it's going to hurt one person, so people in the whole obesity area are a lot more reluctant to implement the same kind of punishing policies. But we've been so successful in tobacco control at demonizing nicotine, at demonizing the smoker. Yeah, nobody cares about them anymore. So my latest study, I'm just really, really loving it. I always said, or at some point I said, we actually need to start interviewing the people who don't want to stop smoking to understand how to help them if they want help. And so I have a new study called Voices of the 5%. And yeah, that's it. So New Zealand and some other countries are following suit, have set an aspirational goal to get smoking prevalence to 5% or below. And for New Zealand, the aspirational goal is to hit 5% or below smoking prevalence by 2025. So we are, and if you can click on the stories, tab there. We are interviewing people in New Zealand who don't want to quit, who are likely to be that 5%. I'm trying to understand. I want to understand, and I think a lot of other people, anyone in health and anyone in tobacco control, should be trying to understand, okay, we're really bashing these people now. And if you read some of these stories and they talk about, like we're treated like lepers, they say. They talk about the tax. Arthur's one thing that happened is we had all of these older people ring up, and they just wanted to tell their story, because when they took up smoking, everybody smoked. And Arthur worked, paid taxes. When he finished work, when he retired, he did voluntary work. And now on the street, if he smokes on the street, young people tusk him and are very, very disrespectful towards him. So there's no respect towards elders if they smoke. And some of the other elders, they hide. They never smoke in front of anybody to avoid that kind of behavior. And I think this is internationally important research because New Zealand is at the forefront of tobacco control and what tobacco control will do to people to get them to not smoke. And these people don't want to stop. And you've got to go, why? It costs so much. It's Arthur, as I was saying, Arthur, they all, I understand why they do the tobacco taxes. And yeah, it's hard and I just have to, budget and cut down. And then he mentions, quite apart from that, he says sometimes in winter he doesn't turn his heater on because he can't afford to. So even though he supports the tax, he's being hurt by it. But you're not allowed to talk against the tax or else you'll get suspended like me. So that I really, really would encourage anybody who, if you ever ask the question of yourself, why would people smoke when it's so expensive? Or why do young people start after everything we've done, after all of our campaigns? Why are young people still starting smoking? And then many of the people we're interviewing have tried vaping. I think this is amazing how many people in New Zealand vape now. Like in 2015, I used to, if I saw someone vaping, I'd go, someone's vaping, I'd rush after them to question them about it, I feel a bit stupid about that now. But now so many people vape, it's just common. And I'm like, wow, look, all these people who have quit smoking, this is amazing. Well, you get to asking, especially in New Zealand, well, why are these other people still smoking? Why haven't they also switched? Well, if you could read some of our stories, obviously not right now, but many of them have tried, and that is fantastic. But then why do they say they don't like it? And you guys would recognize many of the reasons that people have given. But there's a very strong theme coming through where they're saying, it's just as bad, or, probably one of the most effective anti-vaping campaigns that has been run in the last few years was giving people the picture that they could see in their head of water in their lungs. We had this American professor of something. She wasn't an expert in smoking, but some of the anti-vaping academics here brought her over, got her onto national TV, and she said, if you vape, you're getting water in your lungs and you will drown. And these people were interviewing.
We know that Stanton Glantz was there October of 2019. We know that he was there. Yeah. And obviously that video clip at the intro that I played of his little comment about confusing the public with science and confusing the scientists as well, that's exactly the tactic that he's used, is to confuse people, to scare them away from something that actually would help them.
Implant doubt. You must implant doubt. So if you read some of the stories, young people, and they're going, it's just the same, so I chose one. Or, oh, but popcorn lung. Oh, but water on the lung. Oh, that can't be bad for you. And the other thing they say is, oh, we just don't know yet. It's too early to know. So we will be following those people. We've got a diverse range of ages and ethnicities and circumstances, because smoking isn't the same for everybody. It's people smoke for different reasons. People quit for different reasons. People keep smoking for different reasons. And these stories, and the other innovative thing about this research is I'm actually putting the stories up straight away. Yeah, you don't know nicotine, exactly. And this, I'm not, like, usually academics will collect the data, then they'll do the analysis, and they'll write some papers, and then they'll get that published in a journal. It can be 3 years before you actually get the results out in public. What I'm doing is immediately we're writing up the story as a case story, and we're putting it up on the website and making it public straight away. We will still do analysis and write papers, but we're making the stories available now so people can learn alongside us from these participants. So that's innovative way to share the whole research process and as it's happening. We need to know now, not after 2025. Maybe we can find out something now about all of the new policies, punishing, punitive, exclusionary policies that will be being looked at that are yet to come. And we can see what effect they're having on people. We'll be asking them as we follow them through. So thanks for the chance to let you know about that research, because having lost my, for the moment, and I don't know if I'll get it back, my Twitter, I had I was up to 6,800 followers, which for a Kiwi, that's pretty impressive. And
that's more than me.
It takes a long time to build up a following on Twitter if you're like a nobody, really. Unless you're famous or a celebrity or whatever.
Kevin, how many Twitter followers do you have?
13,000, but I'd say half of them are bots. I don't know. I don't pay attention to them.
Yeah, I have like 200.
I had like maybe 600. I did the survey, and I went to like 8,000 or 9,000, and slowly up to 13. But
I think I have more than Tahir Turk, though.
So, Dr. Glover, something that I wanted to key on was that you were talking about behavior. You've had experience in that, and that because of and based on, I think, your decision to tell the truth. I'm not trying to be cute or not funny, but make light of it. But you've become as hated as a smoker or a vapor even, and your compassion shows through for it, and you're being stigmatized in a different way professionally, and it's bullshit. That's all. We're trying not to be as churchy as we were last time, by the way.
No.
Be yourselves. Yeah.
I will draw the line at the F word, Kevin.
Fine.
Well, I'm not censoring that out of the. That might have been a word that will get us in trouble. I'm not censoring the swear words out of the stories from the participants, because it's an expression of emotion, and it helps you to really feel. I feel like I really know this person, right? So there's a few F words in there. Sorry.
Yeah, Dr. Glover, though, if you have Netflix in New Zealand, they have a show now on Netflix. It's the history of swear words.
I'm watching it. Yeah.
It's a really good. I watched the first couple episodes, and I learned so much about my Irish heritage. Just we're geniuses.
I'm watching that one. It's very good. The other thing about it, and it kind of works to bring that in here, is that it really gives you more understanding about how words are used and how the wording, the meaning can be changed. So we're sort of also talking about the Twitter suspension, but words, one minute, a word can be fine, as they're saying on that program. A word was not a swear word, and then, next minute something happened, and they're explaining how it became a profanity. And we're in this time where we've been trotting along and speaking in our own colloquial terms and in languages, and somebody decides that a word is, means something else. It means something else. So, yeah. And here I am down here in New Zealand. I'm really, really working long hours. I'm very busy. I actually don't have time to keep abreast. And no offense. I'm sorry. I don't have time to educate myself about your US politics. I'm not an expert on it. When I got suspended and people were starting to try and say, oh, well, she must be associated with that, term. I'm not going to say it. I was like, what is that? I don't even know what that is. And so over the last few days, I've been getting a bit of an education from people on what that term is. Yeah. Those people, that group.
Those people.
Yeah, whoever it is, I don't know. And then people have different sort of, it's I saw that, I saw some tweets trying, yeah, that's understandable. She got knocked off. She was on a real anti-lockdown tirade there for a while. It's like, nope. Excuse me, I'm doing a study on coping in lockdown. I'm reading the literature, scientific evidence about what might be the effects of lockdown, what have been the effects of lockdown. Should I just not say any of that on Twitter? There's evidence that there are negative effects. So it's like...
I work for a very large retirement community. I'm, in my day job, I'm a physical therapist. The company I work for, we have over 2,000 locations all over the United States. Here locally, I do therapy in 3 different facilities, and these are all geriatrics, grandmothers, grandfathers, older people that are normally very communal. They're not even allowed to visit each other.
Mm-hmm.
They're not allowed to see their grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
I've had grandmothers who had great grandbabies during this lockdown, and they've never been able to hold their great grandbabies. Now, you want to piss a woman off, you want to piss a grandma off, tell her she can't hold her baby.
Yeah. I mean,
there's been horrendous psychological impact.
Yeah. I know of at least 3 suicides, just not in my immediate, thankfully, family or friend network, but in the next, I know friends who know someone who have committed suicide, people in the local community where I work. There's been, so
yep.
I have a background. My educational background was psychology. I used to be a counselor. I couldn't keep doing that work because I couldn't cope with the stories, what's done to people. It was too hard for me. I just didn't know how to cut off from it. And so I'm deeply empathic. And yeah, I have said some things that were anti-lockdown, but in the sense of being a professor and a scientist, that this could have some really negative effects. And so I ran a coping in lockdown online survey during the first lockdown. We ran that in India, Russia, New Zealand, and the US. And we're currently analyzing the data, and we've got a paper we're submitting. Hopefully, I'm supposed to have done that this week. So we will have the results out soon. Now, if I don't get my Twitter account back, I've lost what was, for me, an important communication channel, a news channel. And, I have a communication strategy you've got to get your news of your research out there. And Twitter has been very important in terms of letting me know about other research as well. I often see papers. You guys, all of the vapors, you're like constantly slamming the latest paper up there that's about like either pro-vaping or anti-vaping. And that's really useful for me because I don't have time to go searching all the time, or, I've got a number of Google alerts, but who's going to have time to sit there and screen those? And so everything you're all doing on Twitter, every time you're putting up a journal article or a media article, that is really, really useful for me. And also when I publish a paper and you share that, that's research dissemination. Research has no impact if nobody reads it, if nobody hears about it, and which is the whole blacklisting thing. That's the whole point of blacklisting scientists who are putting out evidence you don't want out there. So Twitter was an important channel for me for learning about new research. Also just, I guess, reading the environment, like what's happening for vapors around the world, listening to the emotion. I read, but I can feel the emotion in people's tweets, and that keeps me, especially over this last year, I came to New Orleans for a conference in March, beginning of March last year, right when everything started to lock down. I rushed home and got back 2 days before they said anyone coming back into New Zealand had to self-isolate for 14 days. And I got back 2 days before that. And I haven't been anywhere since. So I'm cut off from being able to attend scientific conferences in person. Sure, there's been some online, but you don't get that chance to talk with other scientists in person. And the online platforms are just not doing it. They're just not replacing that very important chance to talk to other scientists. So,
I mean, I did get to virtually see you for the Global Forum earlier. That's where I saw Eliana speak, and I saw Henaj, and I saw all these wonderful people. So I watched all 3 nights. And then I said, well, I'm going to get them on my show. I'm going to get them on my show. I'm going to get, and that's what really started me down this road of bringing in all these scientists and these international advocates and all these other people. And obviously I had already had you on, but I figured we could probably get you on again. And we did. So there's a lot of stuff going on. I know that you said you had something big coming next week. So we're gonna help you get that out.
That would be great, because that's what I'm going to have to do.
So since you don't have Twitter, when it comes time that we can announce it, we will announce it ourselves for you. There's a countless number of people. By the end of the evening, there'll be at least 1,000 people will have watched this show. So obviously, when I tweet it next week, share it.
It'll go. If you tell Hamish, or if you pick someone that you trust, we'll get it. It doesn't matter how. We'll get it. We'll get it out.
Yeah. So when that happens, we will be your dissemination. We will be your news network.
Whether we agree with it or not.
I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will. Whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean,
science doesn't know any particular preference. Science is science.
Yep.
It's like Dr. Newhouse said in the movie. That's the data. The data doesn't care about your feelings. This is the data. Dr. F has done studies that didn't say things I liked, but I still respected it because it's science. And that adjust, we have to adjust when we get new information, we have to learn to evolve. So, if it's a vaping thing and it says something we don't want to say or we don't like, we still need to share it and get it out into the world and adjust accordingly.
Yes, we do.
Well, it's like a big jigsaw puzzle, really. Each paper is only a tiny wee little contribution to science. And, and that's where it gets really tricky for the public and even for politicians and even for full-time medical practitioners, GP, general practitioners, doctors, nurses. They do not have time to read all of the papers coming out. And that's where people like me and Clive Bates and many of the others, I mean, I don't have time to read all of those papers, but I need to know they're there. I can skim read quickly, and it all goes into the jigsaw puzzle. Science, really, you look at the state of science. So, all right, like the Global State of Tobacco Harm Reduction report, which I'm sure you've covered on your program, Burning Issues, you look at all of it, and you have to go, okay, that's against, but that's for. But this was a really poorly done study, and well, so was this one over here. And so you have to do this balancing exercise, and that's where systematic reviews are much better to look at, and meta-analyses where they combine the data from that one and that one and that one and go, okay, well, what's it all telling us? So if I can just talk about suppression of science and why it's so dangerous, really, what is doing danger is the suppression of science. The big jigsaw puzzle, if you can stop the other side, people who critique you, or people who are going to come out with, they're going to repeat your study and find something else which throws doubt on your results. If you can keep them from being published and from speaking, or then the big jigsaw puzzle starts to look like what you want it to look like. So your narrative, the story you're telling, becomes the dominant one. And politicians, they have to go with that dominant story because that's where the votes are, they think. So they're going to go that way. And what's been this whole business of smearing and tainting and discrediting academics and researchers is all part of that. If we can, we're going to shroud that person in doubt. They're conflicted. You can't believe anything they say. Then when you're looking at the jigsaw puzzle and you pick up a piece and you go, oh, hang on a minute, that's by Marewa Glover and Carl Phillips. Nah, we're not listening to that. So when my paper came out, I think that was since I talked to you, and we had done a systematic review. What does the evidence, all of the evidence, say about the effects of the use of nicotine while pregnant? So that was a big review Carl and I did, and the evidence, you can't make a conclusion because there's conflicting, some studies are very poor. So, but what we did conclude was neither do you have enough information to deny a woman access to a risk-reduced product, right? So, and this is happening everywhere. They're going, oh, we don't know enough, but okay, we do know enough to know that it's less harmful than smoking. The risk is less, and but even though it's less, we're not going to let you have it. Keep smoking, basically. That is unethical, and especially for me, if a woman's pregnant, that's doubly unethical. So this suppression of science is very dangerous. It holds us back as people, society. And what we see, and you can see with my Voices of the 5% stories, it keeps people smoking. Mm-hmm. We're not, in New Zealand and Australia, we're not really getting a reduction in the number of people smoking. Less young people start, that's good. But, they're really waiting for all those old people to die. That's
That's the
'Cause
long
there's-
game. That's what they're playing. They're playing. Eventually, all those people that are doing that thing that we don't like, they're just going to die, and then our numbers will look good.
But they're ignoring that a whole lot of young people still start smoking because they're not dealing with the drivers of smoking. And
well, they don't actually want people to quit smoking.
Oh, well, that's a whole nother. I started to say that as well. You know?
They don't actually want people to quit smoking. I mean, if everybody if smoking disappeared tomorrow, there would be a whole lot of unemployed tobacco control people. What are they doing?
Patrick?
It's not. It's a lot worse than that, Patrick. You know, you've got to, if you run the scenario out, if everybody stops smoking tomorrow, well, first off, the government's going to be get one huge hit in the pocket with the not having that tax.
What did we say? Australia? I think it's like 45% or some crazy amount of their budget is tobacco tax.
Yeah, I mean, in New Zealand, it's $2 billion. I mean, that won't sound like anything to you guys, but so if we don't have time to go in it, but you've got to think about actually vaping is going to change society in a number of ways. So if people stop getting sick because everybody stops smoking, what if all of those, we've got 6.2 million people who die every year from a long-term history of smoking. Then there's all the others that they claim. So it's up to about 8 million they claim because you got all that exposure to smoke. Now, what if they didn't die every year?
Slowly going down.
And then you've got to think, okay, that's the end point. The deaths are the end point. You've got people living with chronic illnesses running up to, sure, from about 35, some people have a sudden heart attack and that's it, they're gone. So heart attack, stroke, you've got cancers, you're talking chronic illness. Some people live for many years with chronic illnesses and become unable to work. Now, what if that didn't happen?
Yeah, treatment is a gold mine. Treatment is a gold mine. I mean, the cure they can sell you once, the treatment they can sell you for the rest of your life. I mean,
exactly.
I know that, but the anti people, the anti-vapor people, the anti-tobacco people, American Lung Association, American Cancer Society, all of the public health and name only orgs, they literally don't. I mean, tobacco-free kids doesn't want smoking to disappear tomorrow.
Job insecurity.
I mean, they spend more money on payroll and stuff for themselves than they ever would put into research.
I think that they actually believe that. I think they actually do want people to stop smoking, but
not right now.
They think that, well, if people stop smoking, then they will spend that money. It's still going to be spent. The money's still going to be spent somewhere else. But they're not running the numbers. They're not running, hang on a minute, if all these people didn't get cancer, if all these people didn't have heart attacks and stroke, and that's just 3 of these many, many smoking-related illnesses, then you're absolutely right. Think of the industry, treatment, all of the machines. You work in health. Think of all of the machines that exist to treat cancer, to treat these conditions, the hospital beds.
There's entire cottage industries built around treatment of ill people.
Medicine.
The oxygen suppliers, the people that sell the concentrators, the people that sell the nebulizers, all of those things go hand in hand with lung problems. Hospital beds, like you said,
the jobs,
durable medical equipment, all of those things. Yeah, they're going to take a hit.
Now let's think about what happens at the other end of life when people are not dying on average 13 years earlier. So think of like Japan. This is a huge problem for Japan. They have, I think, the highest longevity in the world already. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, what happened was that the heat not burn product got launched there, and 33% of smokers switched to a risk-reduced product and will potentially now not develop those smoking-related illnesses and will now not die on average 13 years earlier. And I went on a study tour there. We met with the Minister of Finance. He knows. He's run the numbers. I don't think they have a superannuation or old age pension. They rely on families to look after their aged.
They do have a public welfare system thing for the older people. The thing about Japan, I don't want to interrupt you, but the thing about Japan is they're the oldest country in the world now. They have a higher percentage of elderly than they do young people because for a long time people didn't have children. So they're now the oldest country in the world, and as those old elderly people die off, their younger population is going to be so much smaller. I'm looking for at some point for them to start importing healthcare workers because I want to go to Japan. I live in Japan. I love Japan. But yeah, they do have an elder system, but it's not very robust. And they have a public health system that's a socialized medical system that's on the edge of bankruptcy already before all of this.
Yeah, so there are huge economic implications if everybody stops smoking. Huge implications for the healthcare system and also for the welfare system. What do you do with all of these people that are now not going to die so early? And we're also getting healthier because of exercise and diet and other reasons. So you're going to have a lot more people living longer. So let's go to India, where the retirement age is 55. And in Fiji, the same. They had to bring the retirement age down to encourage older people, 55. So leave,
Kevin, you would be retired already.
Two more years.
To leave the system and make way for younger people to get a job. There are huge social implications, and that's not being talked about. I've tried to, I have done a couple of talks on this, and it's too big for people to they go, oh, no, that won't happen. Something else will kill people. Really? What else kills as many people as smoking? Not even the current thing we're facing now. Scared to say anything about that because it's another thing you get bumped off for these days.
We talk about the COVID here all the time. It's okay.
Okay. So, every year, as I said, 6.2 million people die of smoking every year. This is a pandemic. It is tragic. It is a disaster. And the number of people who have died is a disaster. But we will get through it. The vaccine is rolling out. That number will come down. But the people dying of smoking, that number's not going to come down. And most of the smokers are in low middle income countries, Russia, India, China, and tobacco control doesn't even have.
Russia, India, and China, their tobacco is nationalized.
Biggest tobacco companies,
and they're owned by the government. So
by the government.
So yeah, that's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah. So what we really need, and so that you guys will help with getting word out about my new paper that I'm just waiting on my lead author to put the media release out, and then we'll be able to talk about that one. And I won't say any more about that, but that's coming hopefully early next week.
I don't know anything about it other than supposedly it's coming out next week, and when it does, we will share it.
Yep. Thank you.
Regardless of whether it's vaping or not.
Yeah, it's not about vaping. It's about smoking. But vaping is about smoking. It's about helping people stop smoking. So it is important, and that's part of what my center is doing, looking at Indigenous people around the world. There's just a huge gap in the information. So we're starting now to get papers published. But if I can just, on the suppression of science, it's been a really, really hard year last year. COVID was hard enough. But, it also, researchers had a really hard time. So a whole lot of research projects just couldn't go on. You couldn't meet with people. You couldn't continue your interviewing in person interviews. So lots of projects had to be stopped. So the whole research community has been pretty hit by the pandemic. Many people switched to, we've got to go work on, researching how to stop this spread of this virus. I'm also the tobacco section editor for the Harm Reduction Journal. And oh my gosh, it's been so hard to get other scientists to review the papers. So every paper that comes in, I've got to find 2 independent peer reviewers. So to review the paper, it has just been a nightmare getting people to agree to review papers. And then my own papers that I was submitting, I understand why they're lost in space, and it's taking a lot longer for our papers to be reviewed, for the editors to make decisions on them. And then on top of that, there are some scientific journals that refuse, they don't want my papers because of my funding. So I have to write ahead and say, I have this paper, would you be interested in it? These are my disclosures. Nah. Yeah. And in one paper that I had submitted, they went right through peer review, and they had it for months and months and months, and they were about to publish it. I even had the proofs to check for mistakes, and then they went, oh my gosh, look, she's funded by the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World. No, we're not publishing it.
Now, I don't understand. I mean, if the whole purpose of having the disclosure statements on those is so that you can publicly announce, hey, I've received funding from him, but here is my science. It's completely transparent. You can see it. Here it is. What's the point in refusing to peer review, let alone publish something, if you're being transparent? That's the whole point of that. I know academia is very cutthroat. I know that. I mean, we've seen people that we know go through the same things. Even, we kind of alluded to Dr. F's problems last week and the week before, where like he was interviewed and the person that wrote the article obviously had an agenda and took parts of his statements and then made allusions to the fact that he was associated with this other thing that was associated with, and he's like, look, no. I was very clear in my letter to you that apparently they did this interview via the internet, and you chose not to publish the part that was very clear about me not having any ties to these people that you're alluding to the fact that I have ties to that I don't. So, it's very much, one of those things where somebody has an agenda. They want, in your case, they don't like you because you've received money from Smoke-Free World, who received money from a tobacco company. But have you ever been approached by RJ Reynolds or Philip Morris or whoever it is and said, oh, by the way, we want you to study this way. Here's the conclusion that we want you to publish. Figure out a way to make the science meet that conclusion. They've never done that.
Even the foundation isn't going to do that. Like even my funder isn't going to. I'm independent.
Right. Nobody that I know quite a few people that were associated or are associated with Smoke-Free World. Every one of them, even Dr. Gardner, who no longer is with Smoke-Free World, was very clear and said, I enjoyed working with those people. They never interfered with my work. They're good people. I have talked to Dr. Yak a couple times on Twitter. We're working very hard to get Dr. Yak on the show. I have no compunction about talking to somebody that received money from Smoke Free World, because science is science, bitches. And whether or not you agree, here's the data. I'm gonna keep using the Dr. Newhouse quote. This is the data. It doesn't matter where the money came from that paid for me to get the data. This is the data. It doesn't
you can
lie.
refute it. You can yourself check it.
repeat my study and find a different result. If that's what you're claiming, that I have an agenda, that I'm taking their money and I'm going to make, I just want. So here's the thing. If you did a study that said smoking bad, oh, and I received money from Smoke Free World, would they say, oh, well, no, we can't publish this because you said smoking is bad?
Yeah, no, they just have policies like the Journal Tobacco Control, which is a tobacco control. That's the main journal for tobacco.
I guarantee
control.
you, they get funding from tobacco companies.
No, they won't publish us.
No, but I'm saying the Journal from Tobacco Control is probably funded by some government agency somewhere that gets money from tobacco taxes, just like Colin. It's like, or Dr. Wodak did in the Australian hearing. He's like, look, I was a doctor in public health the doctor in the hospital in the UK, and most of that funding some of that funding comes from tobacco tax money. I got a paycheck from them, so therefore I did receive money from tobacco companies. I come to Australia and I work in a hospital in Sydney, and I don't know how many billions of dollars he said it in the thing. He's like, look, a lot of that money that the hospital paid me with probably came from tobacco money, so therefore I must have taken money from tobacco companies.
Yeah.
And
I
if you watch that hearing at all,
I saw that, but yeah.
There were 3 scientists that were from New Zealand. One of the gentlemen and I can't remember any of their names, but one of the gentlemen was the head of infectious disease or something for WHO, and he left WHO. And one of the senators, well, he did it for everybody, or at least any of the pro-vaping people. One of the senators took the time to ask that question. The Framework Convention, whatever, blah blah blah. Do you receive money from tobacco companies, or have you ever received money from they were really looking to use that against each and every person that was there that was pro-vaping. Have you ever received money from tobacco companies? They asked that question. The very first that particular senator asked that question first every time that there was a new guest. And it's like, what does it matter where the money comes from? It's the science. It doesn't matter. If you're a scientist and you want to do science, and the only place you can get money is from Smoke Free World, who gets money from tobacco, it doesn't matter because it's still science.
It can be a conflict. I think conflicts in science, and you're seeing it all the time. Many scientists are conflicted. It might be that they belong to a particular religion. It might be that they that's not something that people have to put down. They don't have to say, yes, I don't know which religion, but it might be those ones that the body is a temple, you shouldn't smoke or drink or anything like that, and they're anti.
I mean, in Islam, vaping and smoking is forbidden, even though you go to Turkey, or you go to Morocco, there's hookah everywhere. But there's a word.
So there are a lot of different sorts of conflicts, and so they've made this one a new one that, if you're funded by the foundation. So it's been very difficult. I've had a couple of papers. I think the key word is, because it has to go out to peer review. And remember what I said about trying to get funding in New Zealand. I would have to put into a panel of my peers, and my peers they're not going to give me funding. They're not going to support me being funded. They're not going to support my papers to be published. They work themselves into the process, so they're editors of those journals, and they can stop a paper being published. Mm-hmm. They are making, and actually the Society for Research on Nicotine and Tobacco, which I've been a member of for over, I don't know, a long time, over a decade. And I was an associate editor for the Nicotine Tobacco Research Journal for over a decade. And some of these competitors, anti-vaping and just ideological competitors, have worked themselves up into leadership or getting on committees, and they have been lobbying for the Society for Research on Nicotine and Tobacco to disallow members who maybe have received funding from vaping companies or tobacco companies, and also the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World. So that kind of internal lobbying is just going on all the time, trying to keep us out, trying to suppress the science coming from the tobacco harm reduction sector. And yeah, I can just let you know that I would have a few more papers out now if I didn't have them being sabotaged. You know, I won't say it's sabotage, but yes, it's been a lot more difficult, more hoops. But so I'm very glad there's one coming out next week, and fingers crossed there's another one. And yeah, getting on with that scientific work. Too busy to know. I mean, of course, I know what happened in the States, and it's pretty horrifying from a Kiwi being over here, seeing what happened there, guys. I'm so sorry for what's happening there, but I don't speak about your politics. I have not had time to educate myself on US politics. Sometimes I'm asked for a comment, you know, what should Biden do or this or that. I don't know. I do not talk about things that I do not know about. I will talk about smoking cessation. I can talk about vaping. I can talk about what I know within my area of expertise. I don't talk about US politics. It's not my area. And
well, yeah, far be it for me to the only thing I know about New Zealand is you have a premier. What is the prime minister? And her name is Jacinda. Was that her name? That's all I know. That's literally all. I think it's a parliamentary system. That's it. I mean, I have to rely on, you know, Yolanda or any of the other Kiwis that are in the room to explain politics. Or if it's Australia, I get Paul to come on and talk to me about politics. Because we have a different system here, and when people start talking about secretaries and PMs and all, I'm like, I don't understand any of that stuff. So yeah, I mean,
it's interesting to watch. It's horrifying to watch, but I do not know. I do not know, and I do not tweet about it, and I do not talk about it. I have a bolt hole. I have two. I have two places that I can escape the country to if I have to. I have a home in the Philippines, and I have a home in Mexico, and I can flee the country if I have to. Let's hope I don't have to, because I love my country. But there's been points that I've been looking at. You know, I'm glad I have ammo, and I'm ready to run if I have to. Oh my gosh, you can't say that sort of thing in New Zealand. You get bumped off Twitter if you said anything like that. Yeah.
Hey, all of my weapons were legally purchased and they're all registered. I don't.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, no. A lot of people in New Zealand would have you suspended from Twitter for even admitting to having a gun. But
good thing I'm not in New Zealand.
Yeah, I want to talk about the rule that they said I violated, because I have been asked this a lot. I've had a lot. I've had a lot of.
I didn't know if you actually knew what you did. So.
Yeah, I got an email saying I violated this rule. Now, I've already established I work long hours, nose down. I don't know who else knew that in September last year, Twitter brought in a new rule. I don't remember hearing anything about it. I didn't know about it, but this is how it kind of goes. You can look it up yourself. In fact, I would encourage everyone who wants to protect your Twitter account to look it up. So the rule is it's a new anti-spam, anti-amplification rule. Now, when you read it, and I was quite if you don't know Twitter is a platform. There's some basic functions. You can post, you can retweet, you can quote a tweet, so you're retweeting it, but you're writing your little intro to it. You can you can give a heart to some, to tweets as well. This, I understand about anti-spam. I'm not spamming anyone. I'm not selling anything. So I don't think I did that. Then the other component of it was this anti-amplification. Now, there was actually a book called Twitter for Good. I can't remember the author's name. I probably have it lying around, and I've told many people to read it. She was part of setting up Twitter for Good. So Twitter was quickly picked up by movements, social justice movements, vaping advocates, and around the world, Twitter's used by people, by advocacy groups, to get their message out, to get their concerns heard, to build a following, and to let other people know about stuff. So this new rule, please go have a look so you don't fall foul of it. Although I don't know how anybody using Twitter in a normal way, as it's always been used, cannot fall foul of it. Amplification is basically if you like or retweet something that Twitter has decided should not be liked or retweeted, then you could be suspended. Do you understand?
Well, I'm in trouble.
Yeah. It's, so pretty much I must have liked or given a heart to somebody who was expressing grief or sadness or fear. I must have did that a lot. If people, you just reach out to them. You say, I'm going to give a heart to this person, and maybe so they know that people feel for them. We can hear. We hear. Yeah, we know you're having a hard time, and here's a heart. So I did that maybe too much, and I must have given someone a heart to somebody who I shouldn't have. I've been speculating, like, what did I do? I hate, I'm anti-violence. I've been a victim of cyberbullying. Of course, I'm not going to engage in or pile on if that is happening. And sometimes I'll even say, hey, cut it out. That's, you're bullying. So what on earth did I do in these couple of weeks of madness? I must have liked somebody, or as one person said in all this speculation, perhaps I was tagged. So apparently a whole lot of people who were tagged by a particular person, I don't know who that is. Anyone tagged by that person got suspended. Maybe I was tagged. The other thing that happened was, in the few days around there, a young local woman, she direct messaged me, and she said, you're following blah-de-blah. I don't know who it is now because I can't go back and have a look. You're following such and such, and they're up such and such. I don't even remember. I just remembered it this morning. I went, maybe it was that. Right. She sent a direct message to me to tell me, as if I was part of her ideological little, group. You're following someone you shouldn't be following. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, she didn't say report and block them, but that was insinuated. And on her Twitter feed, she often instructs people, report and block this person, and then all of that group, report and block. So you have these coordinated efforts, groups of people who report and block. And so she did that. She direct messaged me. She said, you're following this person. Clearly they didn't like that person. And I took offense to that. I didn't say anything back to her. I just ignored her. So because I didn't block whoever it was, maybe she said, right, you're gone. And so she tells all her mates, report and block. Who knows, And what does it matter? The work is
in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't, but that is one less tool. Social media, hate to say this. I mean, because I'll do this show regardless of whether there's a Facebook, a YouTube, or a Twitter. I will still do this show. It may not be a video show. It may be an audio show, but I will still do this show. We really do rely on social media too much. Too much. I mean, Kevin's got 1,800,000 million followers on Twitter, because I know he spends way too much time on Twitter, and I'm sure his lovely wife sitting in the recliner behind him would agree with me.
She's in bed.
Oh, she was sitting there a while ago, I thought.
She's tired of
it.
it.
But I mean, if people got to realize it's not real. Facebook is not real.
Well,
Twitter is not real.
No, but our communities and our connections are real. You know, like we met each other through there. So our connections are real, and this is what we have to remember. Our connections to each other are real. Our communities we've created are real. But we don't need Twitter or Facebook to stay connected. You know, they cut me off from you on that channel. That doesn't mean that I don't care about you, that I'm not still here for you, that I'm not still listening or watching or amplifying your message. We are there to amplify the message that vaping saves lives, and that's what we're there. We are there to amplify, and now they have an anti-amplification rule. The other
That's very arbitrary, apparently.
Yeah, it's a little bit vague. So the other aspect to it that you know, I don't know, some of your audience may need to know this. It goes on about if you have more than one account. So let's say I'm going to stay away from vaping. Let's say I don't know.
Guns.
Cat pictures, you know, like Cats of Twitter. All right. Let's say we've got an account called Cats of Twitter, and there probably actually is an account like that. I saw the documentary. Now, Cats of Twitter put up a cat picture, and then the two people who run Cats of Twitter, they go to their personal account and retweet what Cats of Twitter did. Now that's part of this anti-amplification rule. They have decided that if you are posting on one of your accounts and you go to your other account and you retweet what you posted on it might be your business, it might be your vape shop, and then you go to your personal one and you retweet what your vape shop said or your vape advocacy group. Yep. And that is bundled into that anti-amplification, anti-spam. So please do have a look at the rule. I would be surprised if, you know, I bet a whole lot of people, you know how they go, we have new terms and conditions, read them and click here. You know how many people ever reads them? I don't have time to do that. So I've fallen foul of that. It's sure and nothing at all to do with, I'm not involved in US politics. You know, I don't deserve the smear, the latest smear campaign from Simon Chapman and what he's trying to, you know, align me with US political protest groups. I don't even know what they are, who they are, what their thing is. I'm just, yeah.
I mean, while you were talking, I actually did throw up a couple cat pages. So there's a campaign for cat-free kids. Has a Twitter.
There's a lot of cat pictures. You know, there's going to be a lot more cat pictures. That's all you're going to be seeing there for a while. You know, the other thing I did is many months ago, somebody I was following, Helen Dale from Australia, who's an author, and she said something about setting up a Parler account, and she's over there. And so, I'm like, what's that? So I'm looking for channels to help disseminate information, our message, Vaping Save Lives, or, you know, my research. I go, there's another social media platform. I mean, a lot of people are on multiple platforms, right? I didn't know anything about Parler or what it is. So many months ago, I set up an account there. And then next thing with everything that happened, people are going, I'm going over. I don't like the censorship. Oh, that might get us. We just got another little demerit point. Don't like the censorship on Twitter, so we're going over to Parler. And I went, I've got a Parler account. Somebody who's speculating about why I got suspended said it was because of that. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But really doesn't matter. What matters is that it's more suppression of science. It means that, but I'm not cut off. I have you guys. I've had a lot of emails of support, and there are a lot of other channels that will, be happy to get news of my research out there. And I might get a little bit of my time back, that whole time sucking.
You got Hamish as your manager. I was like, does anybody know how to get a hold of her? She's not on Twitter. I can't get her on Twitter. And he's like, well, I'm her agent. I will reach out for you.
Self-appointed, but he did suggest that I get this new flash camera, which so great advice.
Nice. Yeah, we're gonna have to at some point. We'll have to get Hamish on just so that I can put a face to the name.
Yep.
I mean, he doesn't have to be on very long, just so I can see what he looks like.
Yep.
So my advice to everybody to protect your Twitter accounts, especially at the moment, or maybe the purging is over. I don't know. Just be careful who you're giving a heart to, what you're retweeting, and make sure, so what I was saying to people was lurk, but don't touch.
That's funny. That's good.
Just don't retweet me.
That's why? All. Are you?
So
I might have retweeted you. It was you.
Oh, it could be.
Probably.
Could be. I mean, Kevin's been blocked by people that haven't blocked me. Simon Chapman has not blocked me.
He blocked my ass.
And everybody's like, how did he not block you yet? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm gonna keep lurking but not touching until I see something that I can jump on.
Oh, I can't stand the man.
Then you'll get blocked. So the other thing I wanted to let you guys know about, which I think will be of interest to vapors, is one of my studies. In a couple of months, I'll be looking for some guinea pigs to help test. So what we're developing right now is an online course using gamification. So that's where you learn through gaming rather than a lecture, rather than didactic, blah, 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 read this paper. Yeah. So we're creating a game.
There's a couple of vape shop owners in the chat room right now.
Okay, cool.
Logan is another reference to go with. I think he games. We got enough for you. We should be able to get you plenty. Yeah.
So I'm creating an online course, and the course teaches. It's really for people who work in vape shops and also Indigenous and low middle income country community health workers. So these are people who are not trained cessation. They're not trained in stop smoking counseling. And a lot of people who work in vape shops are not trained in stop smoking counseling either. So the course is really about helping people to understand that smoking journey and what people go through trying to quit. It's not about you're the experts in the equipment and vaping equipment, and it's not about teaching people about the equipment or how to vape. It's more about what you said before, the addiction or nicotine dependency is the term we prefer to use. So it's about that, and it's about harm reduction. And so creating that, it'll be online, it'll be free for the trial, of course. We're going to test if it works and if it's of interest in low middle income countries. And so I've got a few countries in mind, but I'll definitely will need a couple just to sort of try and break it. Like how if you create something, you've got to have some beta testing.
We'll give that to the Americans to because we're good at breaking things.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, and we've, I've done a couple of little online surveys just to see if people who work in vape shops are interested in any training, and that's been interesting data as well. So I'm looking forward to analysing that, and so we've got lots of papers coming out. That's particularly a study that will be of interest to the vape shop community.
I mean, one of the things, I have made multiple references to You Don't Know Nicotine tonight. One of the interesting things that I never really thought of until I saw that movie was that, nicotine works differently for different people. Never really thought about that. I mean, the people that treat nicotine dependency don't quite understand that nicotine works differently for different people. It's, I always see all these people that are in the CBD and the hash and the legalized marijuana businesses talking about how great their product is for X, Y, and Z. But when I was younger, I mean, I'm going to admit it, I did inhale and it didn't work for me. It didn't do anything for me. And then when you start looking at the brain chemistry and understanding that different substances react differently to different people, the same substance reacts differently in different people. Maybe I don't have the same receptors for CBD or for cannabinoids or whatever. Some people have more receptors for nicotine and become more dependent than other people that may not have as many. So, that's the one thing we need, an evolving and the pharma people, the tobacco control people, all the people that are interested in treatment of tobacco dependency don't quite understand that everybody's not the same. Everybody doesn't react exactly the same way to the same substance that other people do. That's something that I think that we need more research on, is how does nicotine react to different people or in different people?
For different people. And that's what's tricky about trying to develop a training course as well, because there's some complexity here. There are multiple components that are interacting. It's not simple, black and white, when tobacco control has framed it all as very simple, black and white. You smoke, quit or die, very black and white. And if you're actually working in any helping people so somebody comes into your vape shop and they're like, they actually do want to quit, and they've seen other people quit by using vaping, and they may even come in and like, well, I want to use this to help me stop smoking, and then my plan is to stop vaping. That may even be what they're doing. So, there are far more people who are in vape shops around the world now. If you added up how many of them there are, they outnumber stop smoking counselors in the world. So the cessation support that is now happening in the world, more people are going to people who are working in vape shops than they are going to quit lines. You add all the quit lines together, all the stop smoking services together, and the people in vape shops outnumber them probably 10 to 1. And so I think it's really important, and I do want to acknowledge Jacques Lehozek, who's been providing training for vape shops in France, and I think he's also done some of that in Italy, as has Professor Riccardo Pelosa. And my training that I'm developing is not crossing over what they've been doing. It's I really am. I'm coming from a different perspective, and also I'm using gamification. So a whole lot of people just don't learn that didactic way. That's not how they learn, and they don't enjoy it. So I'm trying to make this more fun, and so it's easier for people to stay engaged and learn it. And You Don't Know Nicotine, I'll definitely be putting that as this is a movie you should be watching. You need to watch this, like extra resources that will complement or add to the training course.
Yep.
So that's coming up very soon. I'll let you guys know when I'm looking for people. I'll let you know if I need a couple of even beta testers to try and break the game.
Well, there's at least four vape shops in the chat room. I've seen at least 4 different ones say I'd be willing to try it. So
cool, that's great.
So,
yeah,
we got you some beta testers, or we can get you some if you're interested.
And
Mark Slitz and Victor from Victor Altic and Tom Morowitz, right off the top of my head, I see those guys all said yes, we'd do it in our shops. So
great. And the first phase of when you design something like this, there's a whole lot of apps and courses and stuff out there that never are designed in a scientific way and evaluated as you go along. But if you're going to do it and evaluate it and make sure it's evidence based, then this is what you do. So the first phase is a feasibility study, where I will recruit some people that fit my target audience, and they will do the course, and then we'll be testing whether or not we've changed their knowledge and practice. The second phase is to actually have them go about their work and recruit some of the people they're helping, and then follow them through and see if there's a difference in the quit rates or switching rates between the people they've been helping and people who are helped by people who have had no training, for instance, or just business as usual training. So that would be the second phase of it. I'm certainly believe in trying to prove that it works before we go to that end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
for concept.
There was one thing I went, because Australia is right next to you, so one of the things that the Aussie guys have got through is this prescription model. And one of the American states, New York, has a bill in their next legislative session, or in this legislative session, to do the same thing in New York State, where you would have to acquire a prescription from a doctor to possess e-liquid. Speaking of things that they should have tested and did a feasibility study on before they put into place, that is, to me, working in the medical profession here in the States, at least, doctors will not prescribe. They will not write a prescription for something that is not an FDA approved thing. If there's no formal treatment protocol, they're not going to write a prescription for it.
Nope.
So here in the States, at least, I don't know how medical system works in Australia. I mean, a doctor does not write a prescription for you to eat oatmeal for breakfast every morning, because that is not an established treatment protocol, and it is not a prescription item. It is not an FDA approved prescription item. So, to me, these, policymakers are putting policy first before looking at what is the impact of this policy.
Yeah, what is the evidence? Has it been evaluated? What are the potential negative consequences going to be? Are there any other unintended consequences we don't know about? So a very interesting study that came out of the US recently that I saw was fascinating. It was actually about alcohol, but they looked at the effects of banning smoking on alcohol consumption or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it was smoke-free bans in pubs and clubs and where people drink. And it was quite a huge, actually it's really massive paper to read. It's almost like a thesis. And what they found was a 4% increase in alcohol-related road crashes, fatal road crashes.
Smoking bans save countless lives, something like that.
No.
No, I think it's the exact opposite is what she's saying.
Yeah,
There was an
yeah,
increase in vehicular deaths due to alcohol in places where there were cigarette bans.
Yeah, so you have the cigarette ban in places where people are drinking, and
more people died in cars.
Died in alcohol-related road crashes, and they talk about why that might be. Now, another one in Australia that just came out, which was very interesting, similar type of kind of analysis, plain packaging, the standardized packaging, the hooey brown, green packaging, removing all of the colored branding, having just the name of the brand, but they all have to be the same. That, what they found in the study, that as a result, tobacco consumption, so you have prevalence is what percentage of the population smoke, consumption is how much tobacco is being smoked. Consumption went up. So, yeah, that's some of that, what we used to say plain packaging, but the official term is standardized packaging. And you have these huge graphic warnings. So now if you do that, why on earth would you think that tobacco consumption would actually increase? Any clues? I have a guess.
Because they're cool packaging and people want to collect all the different boxes.
The whole argument for this sort of plain packaging, for removing the tobacco company color branding and the picture of the holiday, the relaxation, the dream you're selling people, taking that away, removed kind of a brand loyalty. So it undercut brand loyalty. Now, some of the brands that have the high brand loyalty, that's a value, right? If you're selling a product, brand loyalty is worth money. So we take the brand loyalty, we undercut that brand loyalty, we undercut that value. So people, why spend an extra $3 on that brand anymore when they just chop that $3 worth of value off it? So it enabled people to move from their brand they were loyal to a cheaper brand. Okay? You're going to move to a cheaper brand, you can afford to smoke more. And so this is what happened. And it's like, so policy, whenever they put forward a policy, an intervention or a program that they want to implement, there does need to be that research looking at what might be the unintended effects of this. It is not okay to put a policy in place that then results in a 4% increase in fatal alcohol-related road crashes. I'm sorry, unethical.
Could you elaborate? I'm not sure if you can elaborate on this. If they had talked to smokers to begin with, could they have come up with that conclusion before the policy went into effect?
Oh, no, I'm not going to. No, they're not going to talk to smokers. Well, they're all conflicted,
Oh, okay.
They're either conflicted or the effect that the nicotine has had on their brain.
Well, that's right. That's true.
They've lost the ability to make.
My mental stability's not good.
To make a decision, like it's addiction. So on the one hand, there's this recognition of addiction that, and then on the other hand, they're like, bang up the tax. If you really thought people are addicted, you would realize that just simply banging up the tax is not necessarily going to do anything. They're still going to smoke, right? Because they're addicted. But yeah,
money's coming in.
Here's another one, and I already talked to another scientist in regards to this, and I got his opinion. Very low nicotine combustible cigarettes.
Oh, no.
She just bowed her. You made her almost hit her mic.
Okay, so my argument is you're reducing the one thing in those cigarettes that doesn't kill people and leaving all the other stuff in. And they're not going to be satisfied with just one.
No.
So they're going to smoke 2 or 3.
Okay, so I have been involved in a small study in New Zealand looking at this. And I was not the lead author, but I was part of the study team. And we found people who did not want to quit. And we gave them a carton of the nicotine reduced. They're reducing the nicotine to very, very low levels. Theoretically, levels too low to maintain the addiction to be satisfying. So we gave people a carton and we said, try and smoke these first. And if you smoke your own, we just don't need to know what happens. So I think it was only a very small feasibility study. A couple of people actually quit. And others, because of the price of cigarettes in New Zealand, we're giving people a free carton of cigarettes. So a lot of people just mixed up half and half. So whatever cigarettes they could replace to save money, they replaced with. So they smoked some with the high nicotine and wherever they could. The ones that are just a habit. People think they have some cigarettes that are just a habit. They're not doing it for the nicotine. It's you see a friend, oh hi, how are you? Sit around coffee and smoke. So any habit ones, rather than doing it for the nicotine, they would use the denicotinized. So I just call them denics is the kind of term, denics. They would use a denic cigarette, and if they needed the nicotine. So the first one in the morning, they would smoke their own with the nicotine. So maybe 1, 2, 3. And then the rest of the day, they'd try to just smoke the denic. So we've got this people mixing it up. So the nicotine is so low, actually it's not the same as the mild or low tar cigarettes or the ones that came out before. We did not find that people smoked more, right? If you increase your consumption of smoke, regardless of whether there's nicotine or not, you're going to increase your harm. They didn't do that. So the whole thing where we say, oh, but people will smoke more, they didn't actually do that on these cigarettes because they're so unsatisfying. They're so unsatisfying without the nicotine. They don't smoke more of them, but they definitely replace some of their own. So this is why in the US, your researchers that are leading this stuff, they know that. This is why they are pushing for a mandatory across the board reduction of nicotine in all nicotine tobacco, in all tobacco products, combustible tobacco products. You can't allow the both products to be on the market at the same time, you see, because people will smoke some of their own with full nicotine and they will just use the other ones to reduce the price or, Some people who want to quit can quit with those. It works for them. Different strokes for different folks. Some people can switch to these denics and use it as a quitting method. So that's perfectly legitimate. We'll let it be on the market then for them to buy. But the whole mandatory removal of nicotine from cigarettes, I do not agree with. I think it is unethical. You're going to have all these people who are heavy smokers suddenly going into cold turkey. And then there's the whole libertarian or, liberty or argument as well. What choice do they get if it's mandatory, compulsory, remove the nicotine?
And they get all the same chemicals except for nicotine. It's still smoking. No matter what you look at it as, it's still the same.
You take the nicotine out, really, the research is suggesting that people will phase off it. So they will go to a black market. There'll be a black market. You'll have things like what they do in prison here, where they get the patches, nicotine patches, and they use some kind of process to extract the nicotine from the nicotine patch. And or they use the nicotine patch to get their nicotine. So if you have basically it's prohibition. If you remove the nicotine from the tobacco cigarettes, then people will go and get it somewhere else, the nicotine, because they're not going to get it. They can't smoke more and get it. It's just not there. It's pretty much, you may as well say it's not there. It will satisfy a habit thing. If someone's addiction or need or dependency on nicotine is so low, they occasionally have a cigarette just because it's a social thing. We call them chippers. You know, they might still smoke a cigarette that's got no nicotine. But for most people who smoke, the nicotine's got to be there or they won't do it. So the research does suggest if you had trapped everybody in a fake environment and you remove the nicotine from these cigarettes, it'll break. Their body's going, I'm not getting what it's not working, it's not worth doing anymore. It's like, drinking, we've got this thing called seedlip, or Clayton's. I don't know if you've had a Clayton. It's like drinking alcohol and they've taken the alcohol out.
Near beer. So you've given me a little bit of perspective on this, so maybe I won't be so hard on those.
It's
maybe
the thing that I am hard on is that I believe, as a professor of public health with ethics, it is unethical to just make a mandatory cut across the board. Right. The other thing is, so one of the things that my ex-colleagues used to do, and they still do, when they want to push a policy through, is they'll go and do a survey and ask smokers themselves and the public, what do you all think of this policy? Okay, what do you all think? Are they doing these studies? What do you think of, what if we take the nicotine out of the cigarettes? And so a whole lot of people think, and that's to stop people smoking. Yeah, okay, that sounds good. And they'll even ask some smokers. But how many smokers do you know who have actually tried these products? Now, the people in our study, we were asking things like, would you buy it? Like, how much would they pay for it if it's got no nicotine in it? Nah, it was free, yeah, sure. But if they pay for it, forget it.
I think if they completely remove all of the nicotine, you're going to see a spike in mental health issues. You're going to see, if you've ever been in an AA meeting or an NA meeting or any sort of self-help addiction group, most of those people stop whatever their substance of choice is, are still, using that cigarette as a crutch. I mean, I've never been in an AA meeting where there wasn't a cloud of cigarette.
People substitute. So what you're getting at is that people are using a psychoactive substance for something. It has a function for them. Yes. So, and this is, if you take one substance away that people are using, and this is what You Don't Know Nicotine covers so beautifully in the movie. If you take one, but they don't go into this potentially, but they talk about the function it has for people. So if somebody has ADHD, or they have chronic anxiety or depression, or what we see in You Don't Know Nicotine, the film, and then they are using nicotine. Nicotine helps to, so let's say that's kind of what we would consider normal brain functioning. Everyone's sort of dead. And then somebody's like down here, they have a little bit of a chemical imbalance or stuff in their life. So the stress is higher, and the nicotine helps to bring it so they can function like everybody else, right? That's what drugs are doing for people. It's as one of our Voices participants says, like, it helps her stay in her little space suit on planet Earth and function, So you take that one away from the people who are using nicotine now, you haven't dealt with the need that it was serving. So you're right. What happens to that? And people substitute. They will move to another substance. They will go to the black market. One of the things, we've never had any research in New Zealand on homegrown tobacco, on growing your own. And I'm surprised how many of our Voices participants are trying to grow their own tobacco. That's interesting, you know. So, and one guy had been in prison, and he talked about how they extract the nicotine from the patches. He talked about how they make a tea. I don't know. I don't get all the details. Are they get the patches and they make some kind of tea? You know, it's like people are creative and they will find a solution. And that's why, you know, in harm reduction, a lot of us are anti-prohibition and anti these punitive and highly restrictive rules. You know, why don't you... and we're not doing anything about why people smoke or why they drink, you know, to a point that it's impacting their lives in a negative way, or why they gamble, or why, you know.
Yep. They're not willing to talk to them. They're really not.
No, you know, because your brain's been all by the nicotine or the alcohol or whatever.
Yep.
No, but it is that nothing about us without us. We must go to the experts. Everybody knows their own circumstances the best, and you know, we need to be talking with the consumers and designing these policies with them. And even the people in our Voices study, they have ideas. They're not dumb, you know. Public health, and this is another thing why, you know, that I was diverging away, because they see the public as this uneducated mass. They're not smart enough.
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
Let me go right straight into the question I've been holding. A few years ago, I don't know, it was one of the Global Forum on Nicotine things, I think. I'm not sure on the other one. You met Bruni, I believe, in Australia, and you met David Dorn. Tell us what you took away from those two people. You can be as brief or as long as you want, but that intrigued me that you were doing that then. So I'll let you tell us that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I learn most that I know about smoking from my many years of research with people who smoke, and also I guess I took the same approach with learning. To learn about vaping, I need to, you know, learn from people who vape. I even tried vaping without nicotine, because I was a smoker myself when I was young, and I remember how hard it was to quit back then. So I still remain a little bit like, oh, I don't want to be addicted to nicotine. But so I tried the vaping, but without the nicotine. And if it hasn't got nicotine in it, you just forget about it. You know, it's not something that you're going to remember to do all the time. But I learned, Dave Dorn, I mean, he's coming from tobacco control, traditional tobacco control. I didn't have a very libertarian view. I was coming from that public health echo chamber where people, the public, are this uneducated mass, and they need us professors to tell them what to do. And yeah, although the Ottawa Charter of Health Promotion, I go back to that now. It's like, that was good. That was about empowering people, health education, give people the information, and they'll make, you know, and they'll make their own choices, and empower them to make their own choices. And then after that, in the next decade, they like chuck that out, and they're like, no, we're just going to tell them what to do. And so then Dave is like, you do not tell people what to do, you know. So that was great, and yeah, I'm really grateful for my education. My many hours of talking with him and all of the vapors I met at Global Forum on Nicotine. Also, the traditional tobacco control that I've come from was not harm reduction. It was not supportive of harm reduction. It was a quit or die. There's no middle ground. So, for example, midwives were always, it was frustrating for me, right? Because midwives were like, no, I've got to build a relationship with my client, and it could be, it's important that I'm respectful of her, and I'm like, no, she's smoking. You got to get her to stop smoking. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't go the hard. You must stop smoking. They would be, oh, but we're trying to get her to, even if she can cut down a couple a day. I'm like, that's not going to make any difference. So it's that quit. You must quit altogether. And there was no acceptance of just cutting down, there was no harm reduction. So it was a real education for me, the Global Forum on Nicotine, learning all about tobacco harm reduction, meeting that whole community. And, I really, really look forward to the time when we can all travel again and meet up in person. New Zealand's a very small country at the bottom of the world, and we've been shut. Our borders have been shut to outsiders since last March, I think, or April. So it's been pretty isolating. Yeah. But one of the things you pointed out, what was a positive of the whole Global Forum on Nicotine going online was that you guys and vapers around the world and others who couldn't afford to attend the actual conference in person, who can't afford the registration fees, were able to be part of it for free. And I do hope that continues. And I believe that many conferences I've been part of are going to continue. They're hoping to have an in-person conference, and they no doubt will charge registration fees, but they will still have an online component. So the consumers especially and students can still join in and learn from those events.
To access it as students, especially, I'm assuming in public health, as they're going into public health and they're watching consumers and views of folks like you, they can actually do something about something. They don't have the one framed mind of this is how it works and you have to quit or die anymore. Yeah.
Well,
that's a beautiful point.
Sort of. It depends where you're going to university. If you're going to university and you have one of the quit or die anti-vaping professors in charge of the course, and then the other thing is that a very good colleague of mine was going to attend this other conference, and I convinced her, come to the Global Forum on Nicotine. I learned so much. It's such a great forum. So she did. She came, she ran a workshop, and she went back to her university back home. And then she was going to wanted to attend another tobacco control public health conference, and she was not allowed to because she had been to the GFN. So that's what they're doing. They're closing the conferences off to us. The criteria is, it's almost like saying, well, if any of your ancestors ever even talked to that Glover or had anything to do with I've got a cousin who used to work for a salesperson at a tobacco company. Okay, well, you can't attend our tobacco control conferences. That's how far they're going.
It's multi-generational.
Yeah, multi-generational. My daughter will never be able to go to a tobacco control conference. Not that I would ever encourage her to go into this field. It's so vicious.
Wow.
So one of the things that you missed, since you can't be on Twitter right now, we can still see, I guess. Last week during the show, I said that we need to essentially create a movement, because we've seen the impact of social media. Last year during the beginning part of the the pandemic, Florida had a bill that would have really affected the vaping industry in Florida. It was Senate Bill 810 in Florida. And what we did was we created a virtual rally. And we had people come into a Zoom meeting and, record a plea to the governor to veto this bill. Then we had individuals just take snap a selfie with a sign, veto SB 810. We created, we had hundreds and hundreds of people. We created a 22-minute long video of each person that came into the Zoom room saying in 10 seconds, please veto SB 810. And we had almost a 30-minute long video at 10 seconds each of people saying, please veto SB 810. So this week, in an effort to create a dialogue with people, just, let's have a talk. Let's talk about vaping. Let's talk about keeping these vaping products out of your kids' hands while still maintaining adult access to vaping. I created I just did it twice this week. I created a picture of myself. Hey, let's talk about how to keep vape products out of your kids' hands and tobacco harm reduction. And what's sad to me was the response I got within our own sphere, within our own community. Because they're like, well, why are you, why? One of the responses, well, you're just wasting your time, talking to those same people that never listen. And I said, well, we've never had a conversation. We're always responding to what they've done. We're angry. We get on Twitter. We get full of vitriol, and attack. We're reactive instead of proactive. I had one person respond, well, you should be spending more time promoting DIY. And I said, we're never going to save millions, massive numbers of smokers with DIY. I make my own e-liquid here. This is my liquid. I made this. This is mine. But I started by buying product that was convenient for me to buy.
Mm.
Yep.
We're like, so we're splintered here. Like our own people were like, well, why are you wasting your time? And I'm like, we've never actually sat down and had a conversation, like something you would sit over and drink a cup of coffee and let's chat about the problem and see if there's any way we can create a solution. Nobody has ever. We've never done that, as far as I know. We've never just sat down and had a conversation. Could I have a conversation with Tahir Turk about this problem? Maybe not. Maybe not. Yes, but other
Dr.
people
Glover,
might be willing to sit down. I mean, I want to talk to somebody who says that we have to ban flavors and ban these products for all human beings, because we can't prevent a small section of human beings that shouldn't have these products. We should figure out a way to do it both. I mean, there's no reason why we can't.
Yep, why not?
But we've never had this conversation. And when our own people are like responding with these stupid responses, I'm like, no, the whole point is to sit down and have a conversation. I mean, obviously, there are some people that won't listen. There are some people that won't engage. But eventually, somebody might respond to one of these tweets and say, okay, I'll talk to you.
Yep.
There are people who are not allowed to. Remember what they've done to me here in New Zealand. They're not allowed to have a conversation.
True. They might get canceled too. But I mean, eventually, we're going to have to figure out a way. I'm fixing my dog tags. Eventually, we're going to have to figure out a way to try to engage with people that we would not normally engage with. Here in the States, obviously, we're in this next 4 year, well, at least the next 2 years of this 4 years, we're going to be in a situation where the liberals are in charge of the presidency, they're in charge of the House, they're in charge of the Senate. If we intend on surviving those 2 years, we're going to have to talk to those people that we've, in our minds, said they're the enemy. We shouldn't talk to them. Because here in the States, the liberals are the ones that are anti-vaping. Or at least that's the flavor that we've been given.
Did you see my vape prediction for 2021?
I did. There's one person in that article that I can't. His name shall never be spoken on this channel, but I did. I did actually read everything but that one.
So, given what's just the whole Twitter suspension, I'm very sort of want to be very careful about making any kind of political, or it would be seen to be sort of wading into saying anything political. But my prediction for the vape prediction for 2021 was about the personal is political. And that's going back to my university, radical feminist days, when we used to always say the personal is political. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't understand that. What does that mean? They don't. And many smokers are also like, there's nothing political about whether I smoke or not. And a lot of people think there's nothing political about whether they vape or not. So let's put it another way. What if your government was anti-eating donuts? And they said, okay, that's it. We don't want you to eat donuts anymore. No more donuts. Yeah. And you're going to go like, F off. Oh, I didn't say the whole word though. F off. If I want to eat a donut, I'm going to eat a donut. Yep. Okay, so what political ideology in saying F off, if I want to eat a donut, I'm going to eat a donut, what political ideology is that more like? Mm-hmm. Right?
Well, I mean, I don't think there's that. I don't see. The thing is that whole idea that there's a line and everybody on this side of the line is pro-vaping and everybody on that side of the line is anti-vaping is bullshit. It is complete and utter bullshit. There have been anti-vaping bills that have been authored and promoted by Republicans. There are anti-vaping bills that have been authored and promoted by Democrats. It's an artificial division that we've just perpetuated. And then since we've perpetuated it, we've never really engaged in a dialogue with those people because we were told, and we had it in our heads, they're our enemies, so let's just ignore them. And we're not going to be able to do that. We're not going to be able to continue to do that.
It's unless the person or academic, and a lot of this is driven by the public health doctors and academics, unless they are a power freak and they are saying, do not drink even 0.01, no drinking, do not drink and drive, never, ever, we're going to pass a law. And, unless they are a power freak and they want to tell you this is how you will live, you will not smoke anymore, you will never, ever get in a car or a vehicle after having even a little bit of alcohol. You, if you're going to, do the whatsy, you've got to have your condom and your protection things, and you've got to walk 3 times a week. I want to see that you're doing at least 30 minutes exercise at least 3 times a week. In fact, I'm going to create an app, and I'm going to, you have to download the app, and it's going to track how many times you walk. And if you don't, you will be hearing from us. So unless you have a power freak professor of public health or doctor or politician who believes that if they say you shouldn't do something, then you shouldn't do it. And you can be on either side of that divide. They're all over the place, people like that. But that's, if they're a politician and they get their whole party or whatever you call them to all agree and to prohibit drinking alcohol. Now let's go back to that. Prohibition of alcohol. Was going to a speakeasy a political act?
No.
Why not? It was banned. You're breaking the law.
Get you there.
So,
I mean, it didn't. I mean, there were people that drank from both parties for sure. It might have been a political act, but it wasn't a divisive political act that only one group of people did.
But the people who were in control and wanted that, like you had a whole lot of people being disobedient and breaking the law. So sometimes when people protest, okay, the other one, I love that one about was it New York subway, and they banned, you couldn't take your dog on the subway unless the dog was in a bag. Do you know that one? I mean, if you can search the internet, there's some fantastic pictures. New York subway, dog ban, dogs in bags. And there was this guy with a backpack and a huge, what are those big dogs?
Saint Bernard?
Marmaduke one, though. Great Dane?
Great Dane, yeah.
Yeah, he had a Great Dane in his backpack, right? So is that a political act? In sometimes, the time like we're in now, there may be a law, and sometimes people, if they break a law deliberately, they deliberately break it. Sometimes it's an act of protest. Sometimes it is, therefore, a political act. So for many people, it's got nothing to do with politics. But if your government bans vaping and you vape, then there's a certain element of what you're doing becomes a political act of protest.
Yeah, I mean, we've been flying the pirate flag on this channel for quite some time, and we've been very vocal. No vapor will be left behind. No smoker will be left behind. And we will do what we have to do to make sure that they don't get left behind.
Unless they want to be left behind.
Well,
I'm
not gonna like jam a mod or a vaping device into their mouth and hold the button down and make them inhale. That would never happen.
Well, that's an ideological difference. You wouldn't do that, but there are people, academics, doctors, and politicians who would do that.
Oh yeah.
And that is where you start to see this ideological difference. And so what's going to happen going forward? I think that with the Liberals, as they are known, being able to push through policies without very much resistance, or there may be resistance, but there's no power to it because they have the dominant vote. I think that what we will start to see now from tobacco control is a real push now towards the end game in banning the sale of tobacco. Very hard to imagine that could ever happen in the US. But
well, no, I mean, they legally cannot. They cannot ban the sale of tobacco
here.
Well, same thing in New Zealand, but they won't care about that. They're going to try it anyway. It doesn't matter that 267 pieces of legislation will have to be rewritten. They don't care.
Well, no. They actually in the States we have the Master Settlement Agreement, which is not law. It is a legally binding contract with teeth. The states will never, ever, ever legally be able to ban the sale of cigarettes in the United States.
But Patrick, it's great publicity to say it.
I mean, they entered into a protective agreement with the tobacco companies 46 attorney generals in the United States signed an agreement with these tobacco companies and agreed that the states will never, ever, ever completely ban the sale of cigarettes in the United States. They
Forever.
Yes, it's in perpetuity. They can make it difficult. They can ban flavors like they're doing. They can control the sales. They can increase taxes. But the thing is taxes don't hurt the tobacco companies.
No, it hurts the user most.
It hurts the users. And
the thing is that there are many, many other countries in the world where tobacco control can try and do this. We don't have a master settlement agreement.
No.
New Zealand has a number of investment laws that protect foreign investors and foreign businesses who want to come in and operate here. We have, we're members, trade agreements. There are trade agreements. So there are many sort of pieces of legislation or international trade agreements that would also prevent New Zealand from at the moment, actually saying to a foreign tobacco company or supermarket company or whatever that import and sell tobacco here, that you can't do that anymore. That doesn't matter. They're still going to try because it's that virtue signaling. It's that frightening the people. It's about frightening people who smoke.
Control.
Many, many people in New Zealand believe that smoke-free 2025, they already think that when we get to 2025, the government is going to ban smoking altogether. They don't know that it's 5% or below. That gets dropped away. As you said, Kevin, it sounds great to say it. So it's an illusion, but that's what will now be pushed. And I think this is, again, the politics are going to come into it because some politicians, that would be ideologically offensive to them. Prohibition is ideologically offensive to some politicians and to some political ideologies. And to the other side, it's like, no.
Well, we're gonna make the decisions that we think are best for them.
Yeah.
If left alone completely, snus, vaping, patches and gums can work. I'm not against those either. And now you've given me another view on lower nicotine cigarettes. So I'll lay off of those guys a little bit, but I have my reservations. But you're smarter than me, so I'll take your advice. The idea that if you leave the consumer alone, the consumer will bring the smoking rate down on their own, and the attrition rate or the quit rate will skyrocket, and the smoking rate will plummet just by people telling the damn truth, which you do.
Yeah,
and
if
that's all that is.
Yeah, so if the evidence is clear that a lifetime or decades of smoking has resulted in all of these people getting cancer, heart attack, stroke, or whatever, and you give people that information, you provide it in a way that is understandable to them, then a lot of people will go, okay, lots of our participants in our voices, they go, I know that smoking is bad for me. But, before vaping and snus, snus was banned, it's banned now, well and truly, and they just said it was banned before. But before these risk-reduced alternatives existed, there was no alternative. It was seen to be quit or die. And then you had smoking cessation support and all of that. Now there's a plethora of risk-reduced alternatives, product substitutes, and that are risk-reduced. And in that kind of environment, if people can be given the information, truthful information about the risk they're running by continuing to smoke and how much and for how long, then a lot of those people, you're right, Kevin, a lot of them will go, but there are alternatives, then they will move. Yeah. But the crazy situation we have is that a lot of people in public health, not all of them, and a lot of people in tobacco control, and not all of them either, still think that they support prohibition. They believe they're right. They believe everyone should do what they say. They support prohibition. And the other thing, if you know these people, they're not just in tobacco control. They also work in obesity. They're also trying to stamp out gambling or drink driving, or they work across public health.
Sugar,
Well,
Bloomberg tried to ban sweetened beverages when he was mayor of New York.
Yep.
So there are people that will always think that they know what's best for you, and that your choice is irrelevant because they know better. They know what's best for you, and you should just trust them and let them control you. Let them control your lives. To
me, as an Indigenous woman, that sounds like the colonizer coming here and saying, okay, you give up your culture and your ways and your language and be like us. So
you must assimilate.
You must assimilate. You must give up that way of life. Our way of life is the way and the right way. And so what I don't understand is why so many people don't see that you're being told to be like them.
Yep.
And a lot of people are like them, so it's not going to be an issue for them. But what if you are not a white professor, skinny white professor who cycles, and doesn't have a car? Or what if you're not like them? And I don't want to be like them. I don't want to be like them.
Nope.
So,
you want to be Marewa.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like you the way you are.
I'm trying to, I will never give up trying to learn our language that they tried to stamp out. They used capital punishment to stop our people the children from speaking Māori language, and all sorts of things that were done to Native American people as well, and First Nations people of Canada, and Indigenous people all around the world. They're the most marginalized people.
The best way to control the people is to crush their individuality, to crush what's different. And the fear of the other is still prevalent today. We still see you're not like us, so go over there.
Yep.
Smokers are the other.
Yeah.
Go over there. You're not part of us. We don't want you in our society. Go to the curb. Go over there and hang out with the people of your smoking tribe.
Yeah, be ashamed. Feel shame. One of the crucial first things that colonizers do, it is what you said about crushing the culture, you've got to break the family structure, isolate and divide and conquer. So what is? I'm starting to go into the whole political thing there about what's actually happening on a very wide, across the board scale. If you look at it, with all of these divides, all of the different topics where people are for or against lockdown or not, or etc., which gets you suspended from Twitter if you go talking about those. One thing I was seeing on Twitter is people were tweeting they'd just been to Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving with family, and they'd all got into a big row. And, I've seen people tweeting that their relationship is breaking up, because it could be whatever the dividing issue where you have to be either for or against. Well, okay, what happens if you weren't watching, your partner was watching some program and decides to become anti masks and you were for masks, or vice versa.
Yep.
And then so we actually have people, relationships are breaking up, families are breaking up and being divided over, it could be masks, it could be vaccination, it could be, you name it. It's the, fight du jour. It's whatever, okay, let's give them this one to fight over. And then there's all the fisticuffs and everything, the breakup. So what it comes down to is our connections. We have to protect our connections with each other, with our families. And whoever they are, the colonizers or another country trying to take over, or political influences. Mm-hmm. If you bust up, you isolate people, divide and conquer, break up the family relationship, your family connections, the love with your family, that keeps you sane, that keeps you able to...
Well, no, there are some people that the family drives them insane.
Yeah.
There are some people. Just saying.
Well, there's a lot more now, I can tell you, with all of these...
You mean be stuck inside the house with the same people for months on end? That will drive you crazy.
Yeah. There apparently were quite a lot of divorces with the first Chinese lockdown. A lot of breakups after that. So it always comes back to look after your family relationships, your connections with friends and family. In terms of we need to have a conversation. We need to hang on to how to talk together, even if we disagree on something. And that's all being sort of changed to no. If you think that, then we can't be friends, or if you think that, then you can no longer be a scientist.
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten to the point now where an ideology, whether that's a political ideology or who you voted for, or what social media platform you use, or what color your damn car is.
I didn't know that one.
Can cause people to, I mean, I've seen I'll get political. It's my fucking channel. I've seen a lot of people posting on the internet, well, if you voted for Trump, you're done. I've seen politicians go on TV and say, we need to make a list of the people that supported this thing so that we can shame them, or we can cancel them. We've gotten to the point now where we're so fragile that when there's somebody that has we used to have this thing called discourse, where people that had different ideologies or different opinions could sit down and talk. And that's one of the reasons why I did the Facebook or the Twitter thing. We need to learn how to sit down and talk to people that don't agree on the same things that don't agree with me. Instead of going to the point where we have to...
That respect.
Yes. Yep. We can not have the same opinion and still converse and still talk to each other. I didn't vote for Trump. I think he's a fucking horrible president. But I am not going to cancel you because you did. I'm not going to believe that you are no longer of value because you voted for somebody I didn't like. That is the most ridiculous and most infantile reaction, and it will ultimately destroy us if we let it.
Well, it's a tribalism. It's about trying to create a tribalism again, like you belong, which tribe do you belong to, and then having intertribal conflict. And it's pretty frightening. I think that and I think I do see a lot of people say, well, I'm out of here. I'm going to leave this platform and that platform. And again,
I made a tweet about that the other day.
Well, it must be new.
I made a tweet about this the other day. If you want to run away and go somewhere where everybody agrees with you, then you're a coward.
Ta-da!
Because you're just running away from what is uncomfortable and running away from, you're giving them the victory.
Yep.
I will never let anybody chase me away from this platform or that platform because there's a platform over there where everybody agrees with me. I don't want to be in that world.
No.
I don't want to live in a world where everybody believes the same things I do.
No, that's right. That would be pretty boring. Yeah. So
there's no color in that world.
It's self-serving, but it's boring.
I mean, that's just the circle jerk. That's just a bunch of people giving each other head. I'm sorry. It is literally a pat on the back.
Thanks for
literally
Mutual Admiration Society. That's what it is.
Yes. I mean, all it is, oh, well, you're so awesome because you believe the same thing I do. And, oh, no, you're awesome because you believe the same thing I know. Fuck that. Difficult, struggle is important. It's what makes us who we are. And part of that struggle is learning how to cope with people that don't have the same opinion as me, that think in a different way than me.
It's all about power and control. It's all about the people that get in and try, and they're keeping themselves there. And, so we have people who were, ooh, the rich, ooh, the evil empire companies or whatever. And then they get into power and then they immediately start doing whatever, changing laws to ensure that they don't lose that power and that they then become that. So I don't think there's anything new kind of going on, but the fact that we are so connected with so many, we have the internet, we have social media platforms connecting us to a whole lot of people that really,
Well, before the internet, when there was a disagreement that, you and I couldn't have a disagreement because you're on the other side of the planet. And if we spoke on the phone or you wrote an op-ed in the newspaper that somehow got published here and I read it and I got angry, I would have to go home. I would have to get a piece of paper. I would have to write my response. I'd have to put it in an envelope and mail it to you. And we had a cool off period and you get home and you're like, I don't want to fucking waste time writing that woman in New Zealand something. Screw it. It's done and over with. No. It's so easy now.
Yep.
You write something I don't like. Oh, motherfucker. I can get my phone out and I can tweet you instantaneously. And there's no cool down period. There's no period like, is this worth my effort?
Exactly. Yeah.
And
so I think that, human behavior is still pretty much the same. This has been going on for a long time. I'm not going to give you a whole lot of books this time. But there was one I did just read, which Brent Stafford, when I was on Regulator Watch and we're chatting after and before, he told me about this book called, is it The Kingdom of Speech? Mm-hmm. And so I did just read that. And one thing that has been really helpful for me, given the suppression of science, the attacks and ad hominem attacks and all of the sabotage, which I see as commercial industrial sabotage, to knock out a competitor it's not just about being an ideological competitor, because there is money in it, the research funding, the awards. They're now giving awards to people who have less experience and qualifications than me for the same thing that I've done for 30 years. But they can't give me the award because that will look bad for the society, I get nominated for them, but they're like, no, we can't do that. So, we'll find another Indigenous person to give an award to or something, So I'm not saying that that's why they got it and I didn't. But it's happening. I will not get any more awards. I will not get any more research funding. So it is about money, not just ideology. And I've forgotten what I was saying. So we're going for, I nearly used up your whole 3 hours, guys.
That's okay.
Be quiet, Patrick. What I do want to tell you is if you haven't, and I don't think you did before, watch the chat. There's a lot of support in here for you, and they love you. Period.
Yeah.
Everybody.
We didn't tell you. There's a button on the right-hand side that says live comments.
No, you didn't tell me that.
You can actually see what everybody's saying. Now you can't respond in there, but you can actually read all the love.
Damn it, Patrick! And
I forgot to bring that up in the pre-broadcast discussion.
And Hamish, with instead of my name, I put Dr. Glover Matters with the hashtag.
That's Hamish.
Hamish, that is a hashtag on Twitter. It actually is a hashtag. There's more than one person doing it. So. All
right, I know Hamish has been hitting up the Prime Minister of New Zealand with that hashtag on a show. But it's the most important thing is I'm buckling down, or can I use the term? It's time to bunker down. No,
hunker down.
I am slamming it here with my work. I'm trying to get our research results out there. Also, as the tobacco section editor of the Harm Reduction Journal, been getting a lot of really good articles from scientists who are not, I guess they have enough confidence and standing in their own right that if they put a paper to Harm Reduction Journal where Marewa Glover is the editor, they're like, so it's and others won't. They won't put the paper there because I'm there. They won't review a paper if I ask them to, and some will. I've been, I'm really impressed. Some people are like, I'm not going to be controlled by this. The impact of this, smear her, and then other people are afraid of the saying, shit sticks. You throw shit at the fan, then everyone gets it all over them. So it has that effect if somebody, an ad hominem attack on me, on Derek Yuck, on Fas Salinos, on Jerry Stimson. You throw shit sticks, and it's like a fan. Everyone's like, whoa, I'm going to stay clear of that. To a certain extent, students, I think that it was said that students are even avoiding they can't study this topic. It's too dangerous for their career. So that's bad for science. And
status quo.
We will keep going. We're going
to keep supporting you.
Yep.
We're going to keep sharing everything that we can from you. We're going to keep sharing your the 5% thing. I really love that website, by the way.
Yep.
There's some. I was reading Arthur's story during the show, and one of the things you talk about the financial impact of taxes, and he's like, I let the he says now what's happening is I've got myself into overdraft.
Yeah,
which is quite normal for people who live in these retirement villages, because he lives in a condo in a retirement community, because we've got to pay a levy every month. So that's a maintenance fee or a rent or whatever every month. And he says, I let the overdraft get up, and then I take money out of my investments and pay it off. So he's mortgaging his future. He's taking money out of the end of his investments, which means that in the future he's going to have less money. So that money for the smoking is coming out of my children's inheritance, is what he says.
I thought that was really sad. He's concerned that he's whittling away what he wanted to leave to his kids. Yeah. So a lot of the stories, I really hope, I think it really conveys why people smoke, why they still smoke, why they started smoking. We have a few stories coming through where young people, like, I just hope to have another one up in a couple of days. She was sexually assaulted. She had a lot going on when she started smoking. People just, it's that whole thing of like not having any capacity for empathy. They walk another person's moccasins. Don't judge them. until you know what they're going through or what their circumstances are. And a lot of people, not all of them, but a lot of people in public health, they simply have no capacity for compassion, and especially this new generation who never smoke themselves. They do not understand. And of course, they're being kept by the older generation from listening to smokers. You know, they've been told you can't listen to a smoker because they're conflicted.
Yeah.
They're going,
We've always done it this way. So,
and they're way over there because they're not one of us. So,
and they're not allowed to come to the conferences, right? You know, like the Framework Convention, Tobacco Control, Conference of the Parties. Even if consumers go there, they're now locked out of the Conference of the Parties, and not even. So this is a travesty. So the rules are being changed to protect the echo chamber. There was another book I just tweeted about that. I hope that wasn't what got me suspended. About where will man take us? It's about technology. And in the very front of it, he starts saying that our echo chambers are shrinking. And the more they shrink, and it's kind of like, you know, we're becoming hermits almost. Yeah. We may not be hermits in the sense that we don't have a partner and kids and this and that, but if our echo chamber shrinks so much, we're almost a hermit in our own little bubble. Mm-hmm. Like we had the whole term, our little bubbles and COVID bubble. Yep. That's becoming more and more a reality. And then they don't know how to understand what other people outside are saying. They're never exposed to it. So your whole idea of a conversation, and that's why I would say read widely. What I did, which probably is what got me in trouble and suspended, the algorithm, Twitter brought in this algorithm, and it decides what posts you probably want to see. And so, yeah, you open your feed and that's like all the same people and all the same stuff. And I'm like, but you have it, at the moment, you still have the choice to go to see all. Yep. And up top on the right, it's got the little star. So if you click on that, you can see the whole lot, whatever's vomiting out onto Twitter. Or if you go back home, then they'll only show you what they think you want to see. Facebook does it as well. And so this is how your echo chamber shrinks and shrinks. You begin to think that the rest of the world think just like you do. And yes. Therefore, you must, that's an illusion of consensus is developed. Well, everyone else on Twitter thinks the same way I do. So we must be right. So I was like, no, I need a broader audience. I'm going to follow people across the spectrum so that I keep an eye on, the broader, what's happening in the world, different cultures, different beliefs, different political thinking, Mm-hmm. I want to understand what's happening. So I need to, read the lay of the land instead of go back in your bubble. But I do want to say, I do understand if people run away. I do. Everyone has their own circumstances. They maybe have a job to protect. They maybe have kids. And even this whole thing, this suspension, I was like, what happened in America? I'm like, how far is this going to go? And I had a chat with Steve, my partner. I'm like, do we need to start thinking about how are we going to protect our daughter's future? Like you talked about having a bolt hole.
Yes.
How many people are thinking this way? Are thinking like, we need to start thinking about how bad it's going to get. If we end up on the wrong side of the fence, if they go, no, you
attack.
Yeah, you do not belong here anymore.
Now, I will say this. I live in Texas. So I don't imagine I'm going to need my bolt hole. But,
Oh, I thought you meant Bullet hole.
Well, there's plenty of bullet holes where I come from.
You still have preppers in Texas.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
I watched that program. That
Oh
Netflix
yeah. No. You got to realize that Texas. We like to think that we're the freest state because we have more guns per capita here than anywhere else. Probably. We have.
They're probably never going to let me back on Twitter just because I heard that.
I mean, we literally. It's written into the Texas Constitution. Each state has their own constitution. It's actually written into the Texas Constitution that the governor of Texas has to sign a document every year saying that we will still be part of the United States. Literally, the only thing that the governor that has to do to separate us from the United States is to not sign that document. Because we were a republic before we were a state. And I think people have that in their head. I mean, we're a self-sufficient state. We have all the oil. We have quite a lot of military bases here. And if we decided to separate, we're keeping that. That's how Texas thinks. I mean, I'm sure that that's not how it would work. But, I mean, Texas, we still think that we're part of the United States. But we really don't need the other 49.
You're just humoring us by making us 50 states.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
We're processing all of your oil for you, and
you're welcome.
We're our citizens don't have to pay state taxes because we make so much money off of you.
You see, with my psych background and education, I find this, fascinating. And if people think differently, it fascinates me. I want to understand, why do they think that way? Why do they think that way?
And we have liberals here. I mean, we have Austin, which, a lot of people, the hippies and, the marijuana people, all those people all live in Austin.
Oh my gosh,
very happy.
I'm probably also going to be suspended off Facebook.
And we're very accepting here in Texas of people that are different than us.
I can hear the demerit points going ding, 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 ding.
So,
on that program, look, you even have the word liberty, son of liberty.
Yes. See, now, so what's really funny is if we go to the gun range,
there's another demerit.
There, you literally.
Please don't say the B word. Oh my gosh.
You literally could be, shooting at a target in your lane, and the 2 lanes over could be a bunch of hippies with long dreadlocks with pink color hair in there, and they're over there shooting their guns.
Vegans shoot.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
Texas is weird. I'm telling you, and it's a wonderful place to live.
I want to ask you: do you not worry that you are tripping the wire? That the whole Big Brother, or what did I say? The Eye of Lord of the Rings, the Eye of Sauron. Every time you're saying this gun, you said the word gun. You say the word liberty. No. Are you not worried that the Eye of Sauron is going to come on you? When I got suspended on Twitter, I felt like I was Frodo.
Like I said, if I get deplatformed in all of these places, I will find another place to do the show. It is literally no skin off my teeth. I'm broadcasting right now on all those 3 places, the recording of which will be uploaded within an hour of the end of the show to 40 other platforms. Yep. I mean, they can try to silence the show. I don't think they can get it every place. I literally don't. And I'm fine with that. Kevin and I can get in a Skype or a Zoom room, and Marewa, we can invite you, and we'll just have a 3-hour conversation, and we'll record it, and we'll put it on portable USB drives and mail them all over the United States if we have to. So they will not silence me.
I better just make a disclosure that I did not ask you what your politics were before I came on the show. I had no idea what you.
I'm a libertarian. I mean, it's right there. I'm a libertarian. I mean, It's an ugly word because the Libertarian Party is kind of a train wreck. I vote my conscience. And I said this the night of the election, and I've said this in multiple conversations about this phrase right here. Because this phrase right here, I love this shirt because it's a CASA shirt, and they made one for every state, and this has Texas on it. This is a joke. I vape, I vote literally has no value because vapors are like smokers. They're so diverse, whether that be in politics, whether that be sexual orientation, whether that be race, color, creed, religion, whatever. Vaping is not the most important thing to the vast majority of people that vape. If you're a gay vapor, you're not going to vote for a Republican who doesn't want you to be gay because they're pro-vaping. If you're black, you're not going to vote for a racist Republican, even though the Republican may be pro-vaping. If you are a gun rights advocate, you're not going to vote for a liberal who says, I'll let you vape, but I'm going to take your guns.
Careful what you step.
So
yeah, exactly. It might be time for me to go because
vaping is very important to me and Kevin and other people, but it is not the most important thing, and it should be to a lot of people because there are so many other hot political things that people are really focused on, whether that be racial equality, whether that be sexual equality, whether that's LGBTQ plus. I don't know if I'm getting all of those in there. Those things are going to be more important to some people than others. So we're never going to be, and I'm sorry if I'm hurting. I've already said this multiple times. So this is not the first time they've heard this. We're not the political force that we want to be because of all the smokers come from every demo. I mean, the vast majority of them are poor, uneducated, some of them mentally ill, people of color, the First Nations people, Black people, those people are by and large not always going to vote the way that's politically expedient for them for vaping, at least in the current environment. So yeah, I mean, you can ask me my political affiliation. I always vote for the candidate that is best for me. I'm unaffiliated technically. I'm not registered as a libertarian. I have voted for libertarians. I have voted for Democrats. I've voted for Republicans because I look at who the hell I'm voting for and I decide if that person is best for me.
I think that would be the book I'm reading, which is Where Will Man Take Us? I think. I'm sorry, I can't remember the author at the moment, but I can send you the link. And one of the other things he said is with technology, one of the technological advancements that could happen, and I think that it would be really useful for it to happen soon, or sooner rather than later. But we just had a couple of referendums in our last general election here. One of them was about legalizing cannabis, and the other one was about euthanasia bill. And so, but still pretty much we all went to our physical. A lot of people vote by mail, and then you go to your physical voting booth and you have the form and you tick the box. Mm-hmm. But what he was saying that really we could when it comes time where governments need to change the way the government works, what he was saying, what technology is going to allow us to do eventually is that, different political issues, like, for example, for yourself, it would work really well for you and it would work really well for me, where every political policy or every policy being debated in the House by the politicians is actually put out to the public via the electronic, and you can all vote on it. So basically everything can be a referendum on whether or not there should be a law on this or a law on that. Now, of course, there'll be a whole lot of people who don't have time or don't care about that issue or cannot read the materials and don't want to do their own policy analysis. And in that case, you can then say, like, if you have shares in a company and they have the annual general meeting, you could go along and vote, or you can just tick the proxy, you know. So you can have a blend of people who will weigh in. They want, no, on this one, I want to have my say. I'm going to have my say, yay or nay. And so the technology will allow for you to have your say on every single policy. And where you don't want to have your say, it will revert to the representative that you voted for. So they, rather than being our representatives, who for many people, the representative does not represent them at all. But so you get to vote for a representative, and they can do your proxy vote for you. And when something is really important to you, then you can vote if you want to. And you get a blend of what does the public actually want, like the referendum, and what does the proxy or the representative then say.
It would be really interesting to find out when that book was written, because now this is kind of funny. There's a TV show called The Orville. It's a science fiction TV show. Yeah, they do it on that, don't they? So they went to a planet where everything that happened was, everybody had to carry around a phone, and they had a little badge.
That's right. I remember
everything was voted on by social media.
Oh.
And it was a nightmare. I'm just you know, they can ruin somebody instantaneously by downvoting them, you know.
That's right.
That is what they call mob rule.
Yeah, and Ben Elton wrote a book. It's fiction. I think it's called Blind Faith, and that is all about that. It's like, very good as well.
That's awful. That's quite scary, actually.
So the Where Will Man Take Us is by Atul Jalan, and it was published in 2019. So he's really looking at how we will use technology going forward, whether it's nanotechnology. And of course, I'm interested in it because of vaping as a technology. And in smoking cessation, there's like wearables now are being designed to help people quit smoking.
Yeah, my watch tells me that I have to get up and move every so often, and really get up and move, Daddy.
That's right. We'll have like, I was going to do an iProd, right? So in the watch, it would have the iProd built into it, and would actually like a needle.
Zap you.
And that would tell you to get up and move, or
I have a Galaxy watch, a Samsung watch, and I do home health. So I'm driving from one building to, because we have multiple locations, and I'll get to where I'm going, and I'll pull up because everything's electronic, the paperwork, everything's electronic. I'll log into my computer, and by the time I turn the key off in the car, my watch will go, get up, move. It's time to walk. Get up, move. Like, you're worse than my wife.
Okay, well, guys, it's been wonderful, and
before you go, the last thing that we do is we just ask you to give your final thoughts, your hopes for the future, what you want people to think about. You want to remind them of your studies or your surveys or whatever. This is the time for you, and then you can say goodbye.
Well, I because I have been currently suspended from Twitter, and to make sure you don't miss out on my work that's coming out on my website, you can, I think it's, what do they call it, subscribe on my website. So you can subscribe, you can register your email, and then when we put out research results, I don't spam you. I'm not, it's very rarely, or when I get a paper come out or a report come out, I do email people and say, hey guys, we just had this come out. So that's one way to make sure that you don't miss my work. and then I hope I get back on Twitter. But I must say that really the environment is changing. The rules are changing. I think we're all there to connect with each other and and help each other in our different advocacy journeys, or what we all want a better world. We all want a better world. It's just we don't agree on what is better. We don't all agree. So I don't care. I do care what people think, but I respect that people have to come to their own positions and thoughts, and that's going to be different depending on people's circumstances, their access to education, what education they got. At the moment, we're very lucky to be alive in this time, and democracy is fragile. And there's another book I read about that a couple of years ago. It's a very small book, just trying to remind people about how fragile democracy is, and everyone just sort of thinks that it's going to continue the way it's been. We've been living in peacetime, and so reconnect. Let's stay connected. Focus on your families. Make sure that you look after your relationships with each other and your friends. And what you said, Patrick, if you've lost the guidelines on how to have a conversation without, I think really you have to focus on respect, try and understand the other person's position, and try and understand where they're coming from, and respect that they have different circumstances. They may make a different choice. We're not all the same. Our brains are not all the same. Yeah.
And it would suck if it was.
Yeah. And as much as I love you guys, I don't want to be like you. I don't want to, so I just want to keep being like me and keep pursuing.
I wouldn't want to talk to me for 3 hours.
I don't even like you, and
I hate me.
It's been great. Look, I'm sorry if I, took up all the time. It really is very isolating, this whole COVID experience, and being cut off. Not, I have my family, I have friends, but this lockdown experience has been incredibly isolating. So it is like having to be a hermit, and I really look forward to when I can travel again. Hopefully I'll be able to afford to travel and meet up with people and have a hug and have a sit down and have a drink together and chat and have a conversation.
Human contact is people are gonna, the first time that they're gonna get a hug after a year of being locked up. They're gonna you see it in people are like, well, okay, how do we do this now? How do we human contact? Like, I don't want to prolong you too long, but I mean, my job as a therapist is, I'm a physical therapist, but during this lockdown, I've been the only human being that these people have actually been. I've been in the room with them. I've had to lay hands on them. Not like a faith healer, but I've actually touched my patients. It's part of my job, is I have to do that. And when I don't have appointments, I just go door to door in the facility because I'm allowed in their rooms. So I put my PPE on, I walk into the room, and I sit down and I talk to them.
Yeah, thank you.
Because yeah,
and I do that. I
that's
was
how
doing
I grow
that
my
on
business.
I was giving people a heart if they were like, some people on there, they're virtually suicidal. They're saying that there's some stuff people say on there is like, oh my gosh.
Yep.
And so it's a platform, it's a place where we connect and where we can give people a hug. The anti-spam, anti-amplification rule might mean just be a bit careful about. You can't go around hugging everybody, you know.
It's a platform that can be publicly anonymous too. It's scary.
Yeah,
because
you can report somebody and they don't even know that you reported them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is they can lynch you and they don't even have to be there.
Nope.
That's right.
Yeah, no consequence.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And that's just simply dishonest. You know, I'm on there as me with my real name. I'm not a bot.
Yep, exactly.
And you guys, you know, yeah, it's and that's a risk. But you know, I stand for honesty, and yeah, if some people have a go at me, we just block them, right? You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That functions there.
Yeah.
You know, if I say something that offends people, you can just hit the unfollow button. You don't have to. You don't have to. You know, I hate this. I don't want to make this comparison, but I'm going to. You know, in Germany, and Poland, and in other parts of Eastern Europe, back, you know, 80 years ago, if you were a people of a certain religious group, your neighbors would turn you in for themselves, whether they didn't like you or whether they were afraid of you or whatever. And we know how that ended. It did not end well. So if you got to the point where you have to inform on your neighbors, on your fellow humans, you have to wonder what your end game is on that. Why? When you could just let that happen over there, I'm over here, I'm perfectly safe. No. I'm gonna inform on them. I'm gonna tell on them. I'm gonna make them go away.
Sadly, that was this past year in a few places.
So
it depends on people's education. Some people they're not getting that education anymore. You know, we have whole generations that don't know this stuff.
Suppressing information, suppressing history.
In the United States, they stopped teaching civics. So they don't. The kids don't even know how the fucking government works. They don't understand what the Constitution actually says. They don't understand there's a separation of powers, and this is what the legislature does. This is what the judicial system is. This is the reason why we have an electoral college instead of, a popular vote. There's reasons behind that. It's written into the glorious document that is the Constitution.
Well, the other thing is that it's just another strategy, is writing people out of history. And even my, academic competitors, when they are publishing papers and if they write anything about the history of tobacco control in New Zealand, they never mention me. And yet I was the first full-time Indigenous person to work on reducing smoking in this country. And I've continued. I have over 120 publications. They never reference my papers, or hardly ever, unless it serves their purpose. They're ad hominem attacks. They never reference my work, and they write stuff about the history of tobacco control in New Zealand and never mention me. So this is, that's some in universities now. We have people who are only teaching what they want students to know, their own ideology. They're passing it on. Yep. And I'm completely against that. I am for academic freedom. If my daughter goes to university, I want her to be given, well, there's this and there's this, and I want to teach you how to think critically and analyze it and figure it out. Tell me what you think this all means. I don't want her to just walk in and be told, this is how it is, like her high school, some of the high school teachers do now, But anyway, we're at 3:20. I know we could just keep talking forever and ever and ever. I will say goodbye and let you guys either go on or wrap up. Thank you so much for, talking with me and still connecting and having interaction with me, like a whole lot of other people are not allowed to, and so they don't. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
I appreciate you coming, and like I said, we will always hold you in high regard. You were one of the first respectable people that agreed to ever come on our show. No, you were actually, you know, we will always be there for you. So don't worry about that. And yeah, you know, reach out to me. You got my email address. When you get ready to send out the stuff, we will blast it everywhere that we can blast it for you.
Without breaking the anti-spam, anti-amplification rule, please.
Well,
your accounts.
if we're amplifying something that they don't like, we don't know it until we've done it. So, like I said, I don't, you know, it'll hurt Kevin to get kicked off of Twitter.
It'll make me cry.
But,
okay. How am I going to talk to my other bots?
The bots will find you, Kevin.
Yeah, they'll find me.
They'll find you. So thank you for coming, Dr. Glover. And yeah, we'll probably go just a little bit longer, but we probably are not going to go for much longer. But I apologize for keeping you this long. But we had fun. It was enjoyable, and we always learn. Always learn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, it's like, you know, it's January now. We're going towards a whole year of being cut off from each other around the world, like from being able to meet. And so I really appreciate this. Thank you. And do I just say my goodbyes and I leave? I click the leave button. Okay, yes. Bye, guys. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And please, you know, sign up on my info@chorus.com. And I love to hear from people. I try to respond to emails. Any questions, I'm happy to answer them later. Thank you. And, of course, Chugga, she can answer them as well if I can.
Now, as long as Chugga doesn't have a bottle of wine.
Oh, okay.
We can't ask questions after she's opened the bottle of wine. She lost a bottle of wine when she was on the show last.
Okay, but like it's in the afternoon here. So, no, that's all right. Okay, guys, good on you. Keep it up and stay strong and stay well.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, that was lovely.
What a pro-human. Oh my goodness.
We you know, Kevin. You know,
I don't like
Kevin,
your damn hat either, by the way. It's bugging me all night. Get a real freaking hat.
I don't like those hats. If
I'm joking.
They can't be a you don't know nicotine.
I'm joking.
I have this hat, but it's really hot.
Now I like you again. All right,
it's fine. Really hot. Kevin,
what?
I don't know. I forgot what I was going to say.
Don't round me.
Oh! I did alluded to the fact. I'm alluded to the fact that we have the next few 3-4 weeks of shows already planned out.
Yes.
Already planned out. So next week the guest is a surprise. But the good news is Kevin got a microphone.
That's right.
Which means, because I said that if we got a sponsor for next year, that I would buy you a microphone. So
yes,
everybody can assume that Smoke Free Radio will be here for an entire another year.
That's right.
Even if we get deplatformed, you may have to go to Spreaker, and we can broadcast live on Spreaker, and that's fine. That's how we used to do things. If we ever get kicked off of all of the other places all at the same time, so we're not going anywhere. Another cool thing, I acquired a Funko this week of the Black Sabbath album.
I don't like you. I don't like those either, but that's okay.
Black Sabbath, man.
Wow.
So next week's guest is a secret yet. We will announce it next week. But then the week after that, this is very exciting. Senator Holly Hughes from Australia, who was the chairperson for the Senate Select Committee on Nicotine.
Bring your own drop bears.
Will be a guest. We've already arranged it. Everything's done. Her press person because I had to go through first her personal assistant and then her press person to find out how, she was like, well, I said, I really want to talk about the hearings. I want to talk about her personal journey as a vapor.
Yep.
During her researches into vape or into this nicotine thing. She actually got with Colin Mendelsohn, who walked her through the process, and he got her a prescription, and she is now a vapor. The week after that, though, we have Dr. Mark Tyndall, who is a harm reduction person. He's a professor at the University of British Columbia School of Population and Public Health. He is an infectious disease doctor. I'm reading it right off of his Twitter bio, by the way. He's an advocate for human rights, and he's the founder of a project called My Safe Project, which is a harm reduction for safe supply in Vancouver. But he's also been very active in the Twitter world of vaping because he's been promoting tobacco harm reduction and that vaping is indeed valid harm reduction and should not be attacked and demonized. It should be promoted. So we're going to bring him in because we need to draw the parallels between other harm reduction and tobacco harm reduction and vaping. We need to show everybody these are the allies that we need. So we're going to have him on, and I'm not ready to say who's coming on after him, but yeah, so we've got everything planned out for the next few weeks. We've got really stellar guests, and I'm sort of really giddy that we're getting. I'm like giddy like a schoolgirl. That we're getting these great quality people that are willing to come on and have a conversation and educate the two chuckleheads.
Well, yeah, of course.
Because obviously we're not always the smartest. We might be the loudest. I keep going to my email to see if I'm getting an email from Twitter saying you have been banished. I haven't gotten one yet, so.
Well, I'm tweeting.
I do have my email open right now, so I'm waiting. But Kevin,
what?
When your heater is on,
mm-hmm.
that microphone is still picking up your heater.
Well, then I'll just freeze while we're on the show.
No. We already just told the story of an old man who wouldn't turn his heater on because he wanted to buy cigarettes.
Well, yeah, that's true. I'm not sure about the machine eating Dr. Glover. I don't know about that one. Troop. I have no idea. That one I haven't heard. Okay, so heater. Maybe I can get a box or something.
I think if you put this pop filter on the towards the,
on the side?
if you face it, it might minimize it. Yep.
Did it?
A little bit.
Damn it. All right. Well.
But I did adjust your volume level, and it doesn't. Nobody made any complaints.
No, actually, people said I sounded great.
No, I lowered it halfway through the show, and nobody said anything.
Oh.
So yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, so it seems to be working. So I do want to thank. I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of people that were in here and left, but so I'm going to go through the chat real quick and say thank you to the people that are still on the list of people that I can say thank you to. So obviously, Paul is here, and I really appreciate Paul and Bruni and Samantha and Ed. I don't really want to say I appreciate Ed, but okay, I appreciate Ed. And
he's old. He's not going to hear you anyway.
Chugga and Bruni and Mark and Edward Hubbard was in Periscope, and Troop, my bro Troop, and Will Webb. And I saw Victor was here earlier. He had to leave.
Dave was
Monty's here. I'm a parent, and if my kids want to experiment with nicotine, I would prefer it be with vaping. I would never promote that, but that does make sense to me. I think I've said hello to all these other people that are so far here. But yeah, I just love. Oh, Addie. I don't know if Addie's still here or not, but Addie was in the YouTubes, and Charlie McCracken, and Victor, Will. I think I already said Will, and Leanna,
Mark.
and Mark, All you people, David, all the people that are here, Apathy's here. I don't know what he's saying. No, thank you to, but okay.
No, thank you.
No,
comma.
There's no comma. It just says no, thank you. So he's so apathetic he forgot the comma.
Oh, shut up.
Oh, Amanda. Hello, Amanda. I've said this before. If we ever get deplatformed, if that were ever to happen, I saw that Dash Vapes, because their YouTube got ripped, got removed, got whatever. That they are setting up their own streaming thing right on their website. If it ever comes down to it, I might go hat in hand and say, "Hey, can you guys can Smoke Free Radio be on Dash Vapes?" I don't. They've already got everything set up, so we might have to do something like that. I mean, I don't think we have the footprint that's large enough to get their attention, to get the censorship. I mean, we get somewhere between 1 and 8 or 7,000 views on our show in a week's time. We're not threatening Grim Green for supremacy of the vaping world. We're not, Demetrius gets about a quarter of what Grim gets, and we're not even messing with Demetrius's numbers. So I don't think that anybody's afraid of us, and I don't think that we're big enough for anybody to worry about. I still think that, and I'll stand by this, we give the best content out of everybody, except for maybe the Smoker Show.
We have the best audience.
And yes, we do have the best audience. And they're loyal. These are the people that come every week to listen to me and you.
Because we ain't shutting up.
I do have to say, none of the people that maybe Leanna, this, I'm not going to show the label, but this cigar variant in this device.
Jennifer already left, so you can't tease her anyway.
Is damn good.
It's damn good.
Oh yeah, and this is one of the ones that I was like, I'm just gonna throw this together and see what happens. This is pretty damn good.
Pretty damn good. Look at you.
Pretty damn good.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, what are your parting thoughts? What do you want to end the night with?
Patrick, having the hashtag there in front of me reminds me of who that young lady is, and I liked the fact that was done. Whether she comes back on or not on Twitter, she's going to keep doing what she's doing, and I have to go back to my survey because when I did it, I didn't know anybody. I told you earlier I had 300 followers. Nobody gives a shit. Who's this idiot? And suddenly the followers just was like multiplying by the day. They were like rabbits. And I didn't know who they were. I had no idea. Bruni was one of the first ones that I remember, Agent Anya and a few others. And I was stunned at what I could learn. And I really was. And I put this in a blog about Professor Puff and stuff. I followed all those people that these people were talking about as I grew because I wanted to learn from them. And then quickly they blocked me because I was telling the truth. But the survey was to get your voice. I don't know if you specifically took it or not, but the voices of Bruni and others, I accidentally wanted comments, and the comments were the gold. I didn't know what I was doing on the Survey Monkey. I got all these comments. I Can Climb Mountains Again was one of them. I Don't Wet My Knickers Anymore was another one, which made me laugh. But the Climb Mountains Again, Dr. Glover used. And 2 hours into a symposium that Alan Beard told me about. But she's kind of doing the same thing with her site. And she's listening to other people and letting their voices be heard. That's the important part to me. she's also one who listens and engages with us. Obviously, to come on here with you and me is not only an honor, but a surprise.
She's desperate.
She's desperate. So I take a lot of stock in her doing that. And I take a lot of stock in what she says. So listening and engaging, like the low Nick stuff, I am so against it, but she at least gave me a different perspective. I can sit back and go,
she brought science.
Okay. Right. She brought another point of view that I hadn't heard yet, because all I've read and seen and heard and blogged, I think I've got 3 blogs on their dumbasses, 22nd century, is it isn't going to work. You're idiots. Well, maybe I'm wrong. And you don't grow unless you realize you're wrong and then move on with that information. And that's what Dr. Glover, in effect, teaches me. In that part of tonight's show. And she's a professional. She should be treated as a professional. We will blast anything she has on there. I don't care if I like it or not. I won't care if I like it or not. And if you don't like it, that's more of a reason to put it out. If it's something you didn't want to hear, that's what we're looking for. So she's not going to lie to us. She's never given us a reason to think that. And quite a few others that are brave enough to risk their livelihood for that are those are the people you need to respect quickly if you haven't. And I'm sure the audience in this room now do. But for the record, she's pro-human. Love her dearly. I'm glad she came back on. And don't talk about your hat. That's all.
Talk about your hat. So, I showed one of the things that I did this week on Twitter was one of the pictures. I'm going to show you the other one. And the reason I don't want to be the only one doing this. So the only way that this idea of, hey, you know what? Let's have a talk about nicotine. Let's have a talk about vaping. Let's have a talk about fixing the problem instead of the nuclear option. Anybody that has a phone can do this. I used an app to put the words on, but you can just get a piece of paper and a magic marker and make a sign. I'm putting out the invitation again to public health warriors to sit and chat over a cup of coffee and talk about solutions. Threatening adult access to reduced harm products to reduce youth use will hurt adult quit attempts. And, I just posted a picture of me sitting in the car. And I put, kids shouldn't vape, but we need to talk about tobacco harm reduction for adult smokers. Mm-hmm. Everybody on Twitter needs to be doing something like this. Don't use my words, use your words. But it should be, let's have a talk. Let's sit down and talk like adults. Let's have a conversation. Look at how pretty I am, actually. If I'm the only one doing it, I only have like 800 followers.
I'll commit to doing it. I got a picture I can use.
Just post a picture and say, you know what? Yeah. Let's have a conversation. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about this. All we do is we react, we respond instead of being, offering. Let's offer the olive branch and say, you know what? Let's have a talk about this problem. Let's see if there's a solution other than taking away access to adults. Let's figure out a way to control access to kids. Let's talk about the benefits of this product. Let's do this instead of being angry and full of poison and insulting all the time. And I do a lot of that. Do a lot of that. I'm just saying, let's offer them something other than the yes, I saw that, the clenched fist. Let's offer them the open hand.
I was laughing at the boy that beauty filter was working.
Yeah, I saw apathy over there. I busted him on the comma. There he goes. He threw the comma in a few seconds ago. So, let's just make the decision to waste a few seconds of our lives to take a selfie with a sign or a message and say, hey, let's have a conversation. I know I said during the show that I think that conversation might be dead, but let's do that. Let's try that. And if you can't do it on Twitter, do it on Facebook.
Yep.
You know, if you can't do it on Facebook, do it on Instagram.
I've actually asked. I won't.
If
use
you're
names.
on Parler and it's still working, I don't think it's working. But if you're on Parler and it's working, do it there.
I asked.
Or there's another one. There's another new one that the people that got kicked off Parler started. There's another one. I can't remember what it's called now, but it's like Words or something. There's another one. Do it on fucking what's the one that everybody Reddit. Do it on Reddit.
Oh, Reddit. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, there's places where you can have conversations. You know, we may end up having to broadcast this show live on Twitch, but we'll fucking do it, or Discord or whatever. We'll find places. We will talk wherever they will let us talk. This platform that we're using is it actually has the ability to go to like 20 different things. So I'm sure we can figure out one that won't kick us off if we get ever. I don't think we'll get kicked off, but if we were, you know, we need to do that. So anywho, I love you guys. You know, it's Friday night, like I say every Friday night. The show ends, and you should go and find your kids and tuck them in, or give them a kiss on the head. Go find your wife and squeeze her butt and enjoy the weekend. There's football on Sunday. I think there's football on Saturday too. There's football. Enjoy yourselves, barbecue, do all the things that you love, because Monday's coming, and we know that when Monday comes, all this shit starts again, and we have to be there to keep kicking ass. So we'll see you in 7 days with our secret guest, and we've got some fun stuff to talk about. So be good, love you, and you know, have a good one.
To confuse the public about science, to confuse scientists about science.
We're exporting a whole lot of really bad and dangerous rhetoric, bad research, and unfortunately it's being picked up and amplified in other countries.
Never forget the elephant in the room. It's actually such a big elephant that I don't think people can even breathe in that room. It's such a huge elephant. It's the number one preventable cause of death in Australia. So when you are taking a precautionary approach, when you're like, no, we just don't know enough, I just tell them, shut up, because that just I don't know is killing people right now.
There's a tremendous push to bring about prohibition, to actually prohibit vaping. Whereas the evidence strongly suggests that actually, up to now, the most successful way of people stopping smoking cigarettes is vaping.
When vaping increases, smoking decreases.
That's right.
When vaping is restricted, smoking increases.
We're worried that, in fact, a lot of members of the public still think that using an e-cigarette is as harmful as smoking a cigarette. I mean, I have said that it would be tragic if smokers didn't quit and carried on smoking because they hadn't tried an e-cigarette, because they were worried about the safety of an e-cigarette.
To confuse the public about science, to confuse scientists about science. What about that? What about that? What about that? What about that? What about that?
I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.